Hello friends, welcome to Shadow Whisperer. All you see is darkness, just the sound of rain. Designed to help you relax, focus on the story, and drift into sleep. But before you do, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And yes, feel free to share where you're listening from in the comments. Now, let's begin. This happened back in 2020. Man, what a weird time that was. I had just quit my job, out of nowhere. It felt like a sudden punch to the gut, but also a big sigh of relief. It wasn't a good job, not really. Just a place I went. Every day felt the same, like a hamster wheel. I worked in a small office. My cubicle felt like a box. The air always smelled stale, and my girlfriend and I, we just broke up. That hit me harder than I thought it would. We had been together for a long time. Suddenly, everything felt empty, like a big hole in my chest. So I was crashing in my buddy's spare room. It was nice of him to let me stay, but it was a small room, and I felt all cramped up, like a bird in a cage, you know? My chest felt tight all the time. I just had this big feeling inside me, a feeling that I needed to hit a reset button, clear my head, big time. I needed to get away from everything, far away. The city felt like it was closing in on me. I couldn't breathe. The noise, the lights, the constant rush. It was too much. So I thought, hey, backpacking, just a couple of days, get lost in the woods. Maybe that would help me breathe again, find some peace. I looked online for a place, wanted somewhere new, somewhere I hadn't been before. That's how I found Alpine Preserve. It was a state park. It was about 3 hours from my buddy's place, tucked right into the edge of the big mountains, the Appalachians. What really got me was how little I could find about it. Just a few old blogs, super old, from years ago. The dates on them were from way back, no recent reviews, nothing. The park's website looked like it hadn't been updated since forever. The pictures were blurry, the text was tiny. It looked like something from the early 2000s, all pixelated and slow to load. It had this one old hand-drawn map, scanned onto the site. It looked blurry and faded, like it was drawn on a napkin. The lines were shaky. The labels were hard to read. That should have been my first big hint, my first big clue that something was off. But I was too busy feeling restless, too busy wanting to just disappear for a bit. I just wanted to escape. So I packed my bag, just the basics. Tent, sleeping bag, some food, water. I made sure to grab my good hiking boots. They were worn in and comfy, my old, reliable pair. I threw my phone in there too, but I wasn't planning on using it much. Just wanted to be alone, just me and the trees, no calls, no texts, no social media, just silence. The drive there was pretty quiet. I had the windows down, listening to the wind. It whistled past my ears. The city slowly faded away behind me. Houses got farther apart. Then they stopped altogether. Trees started to get thicker. They lined the road like tall green walls. It felt good, like I was leaving all my problems behind. Every mile was like shedding a heavy coat. The air got cleaner, smelling like pine and damp earth. My shoulders started to relax. The tension slowly left my body. I sang along to the radio for a bit. Then I just listened to the road, the hum of the tires, the wind. I passed a few small towns, old gas stations, little diners with faded signs, then nothing but trees again. The road got narrower, more winding. It climbed a little. I could feel the mountains getting closer. The air felt cooler now. A chill started to creep in. Even with the sun out, it was a strange kind of cool, not just temperature. I got there just before noon. The sun was high, bright and warm. The parking lot was just gravel, one small patch of it. Dust kicked up as I pulled in, and my car was the only one there, not a single other car. The lot was empty. It was too empty. That was a little strange, even for a quiet park. Most parks, even small ones, have a few cars, even on a weekday. But I just figured, hey, more peace and quiet for me, less people to bother me. I pulled on my backpack. The straps dug into my shoulders a little. It felt heavy, but in a good way, like I was ready for an adventure. I stretched my arms, took a deep breath. The air smelled so fresh, like clean dirt and pine needles. The trail started right at the edge of the parking lot. It was called the Alpine Loop. A small, faded wooden sign pointed the way. The letters were almost gone, worn away by weather. The map said it was the longest one. About 10 miles round trip, it said. Easy enough for a couple of days. I figured I'd hike a few hours, find a spot, and camp. Just a nice, easy trip. The first hour was amazing. Really. The trees were so thick, so tall. They made this green roof over my head. The light was soft and dappled, like sunlight coming through stained glass. The trail wound around. It wasn't flat, but not too steep either. Just gentle ups and downs. Birds were singing everywhere, little chirps and whistles. It was like they were talking to each other, and not a single person, just me. Just the sounds of the forest, the crunch of my boots on the leaves, the rustle of the wind in the branches. This was exactly what I needed. I felt my shoulders loosen up. The tight knot in my stomach started to unwind. I walked along, just listening, just breathing. The quiet was a good quiet, a peaceful quiet. My mind started to feel clearer than it had in weeks. I smiled a little. I thought about my old job, my old life. It all felt so far away, like a dream I was waking up from. I even whistled a little tune, feeling good, really good. Then, after a while, I started to notice something. Something small at first, but it kept bugging me. There were no trail markers, none at all. Usually parks have little colored squares on trees, or wooden signs pointing the way, little arrows. But here, nothing, just dirt and leaves. The path was clear though, clearly worn down, like tons of people had hiked it before, so I just kept walking. I had my printed map, the one from the website. I pulled it out, unfolded it. It was pretty useless, honestly. The trails on it were barely labeled. It showed one big loop, but it didn't say where it began, or where it ended. Just a big circle, no starting point, no end point. I shrugged, figured I could find my way. The ground was clearly worn in, like tons of people had hiked it before, so I just kept walking, one foot in front of the other. The sun felt good on my face. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above me. 2 hours in, I was still walking, still hadn't seen any forks in the trail, no other paths branching off, no signs of turning back. Just endless trees, and the same looping hills, up a little, down a little. Over and over, it was starting to feel a little weird. The scenery wasn't changing much, just more trees, more dirt. The trees all looked the same, the rocks looked the same, but I told myself the loop was just longer than I thought. Maybe it was a really big 10-mile loop, or maybe I was just walking slower than usual. Yeah, that had to be it. I kept going. The sun was still high, but the shadows were starting to get a little longer. The air was getting a bit cooler. That strange chill was back. It felt like the forest was holding its breath. Then I saw it. The campsite. It was a small clearing, like someone had cut down trees to make space. It looked old. The edges of the clearing were overgrown. Thick bushes. There was a fire ring in the middle, just a circle of rocks. They were covered in moss. A few logs were laid out, like for sitting. They looked soft with rot. There was even a rotted wooden bench. Moss was growing all over it. It looked like it had been there for a very long time. At first, I was excited. Relief washed over me. I was getting tired. My legs were starting to ache a little. My shoulders felt heavy. This was perfect. I figured this was the spot, the perfect place to pitch my tent, spend the night, wake up fresh, and finish the loop in the morning. I started to smile, but as I started walking into the clearing, something felt wrong. The air got heavy, like a blanket had been thrown over everything. It felt thick, hard to breathe. The bird song stopped. A weird quiet fell over everything, a silence that felt too deep, like the forest had suddenly gone deaf. Then I saw it, a backpack, sitting right next to the mossy bench. It looked old, really old, sun-bleached. The fabric was faded to a pale, dusty gray, like it had been sitting there for years. It was covered in a thin layer of dirt and dead leaves, like it was part of the ground. My heart started to beat a little faster. Why would someone leave a backpack? It looked like it had been forgotten. But who forgets a backpack in the middle of nowhere? I walked over, slowly. My boots crunched on the dry leaves. The sound seemed too loud in the quiet. I nudged it with my foot. It was heavy and zipped up tight. I hesitated. My gut told me not to touch it. A cold feeling started in my stomach, like a knot tightening. But my brain was screaming, what if someone needs help? What if they're hurt? So I knelt down. My fingers felt cold as I touched the old fabric. It felt stiff and brittle. I unzipped the main pocket. Slowly. The zipper was rusty. It made a grating sound. Inside were 2 cracked energy bars. They looked ancient, like petrified wood. They were hard as rocks, covered in dust, an empty water bottle, bone dry, not a single drop of water. And then, a photo. It was torn at the edges, faded. The colors were almost gone. I picked it up. It was a picture of a man, maybe in his 30s. He was smiling, a big, happy smile. He was standing next to a woman and a little boy. They looked like a family, like they were on vacation, some kind of family portrait, taken at a park maybe. They looked so happy. My eyes went to the back of the photo. Something was written there, in shaky blue ink. It looked like a child's handwriting, or maybe someone really tired. It said, "We made it to the loop. Day 3. No signal. Keep heading west." I just stared at it. Day 3? My mind tried to make sense of it. This was a 10-mile loop, supposed to take a few hours, maybe a full day if you were slow. Who camps here for 3 days without getting out, without finishing a 10-mile trail? A cold feeling started to spread through my chest, like ice water. Something was really starting to gnaw at me. This wasn't right, not at all. I stood up, slowly. My eyes scanned the tree line. That weird, heavy silence was back, the kind that makes your ears ring a little, like the whole forest was holding its breath. Then I noticed it. In the dirt near the bench, footprints, lots of them, multiple sets. They looked fresh, way fresher than mine, like they were made just this morning. But there were no people, no other gear, no tents, no sleeping bags, just dozens of boot prints, all going in circles, around and around the fire pit, like someone had been pacing for a long, long time. My breath hitched in my throat. I didn't like this, not one bit. My gut was screaming at me now. Get out now. Every hair on my arms stood up. I decided not to stay, no way. I wasn't pitching my tent here, not with that backpack, not with those footprints. I quickly packed up my own tent. It was still rolled up. I hadn't even taken it out of my bag. I shoved it back in. My hands were shaking a little. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I started heading back, the way I thought I came from. I was tired, yeah, but now I was also starting to feel really uneasy, like I was being watched. Every shadow seemed to move. Every rustle of leaves sounded like someone was behind me. I kept glancing over my shoulder. Nothing, just trees. The light was fading fast. The sun was dipping below the treetops. I just wanted to make it back to my car, before sunset, before it got dark out here, before whatever left those footprints came back. I walked for over an hour, fast. My heart was pounding. I kept looking over my shoulder. Every snap of a twig made me jump. My breath was coming in short, quick gasps. My legs burned. I pushed my legs harder. I just wanted to see the parking lot. I imagined the asphalt, the familiar shape of my car, the open road. I pictured myself driving away. The air grew colder. The shadows deepened. The trees started to look like dark, twisted figures. But then, I saw it, the clearing, the fire ring, the logs, the rotted wooden bench, and the moss. It was the same damn campsite. My stomach dropped, like I'd fallen off a cliff. I stood there, frozen. My mind raced. How? How could I be back here? I had been walking in a straight line, or what I thought was a straight line. My head started to spin. At first, I told myself I must have taken the wrong trail. Maybe there was a fork I missed, but I hadn't seen any forks. Not a single one. The trail had been one continuous path. No turn-offs, no side routes. I pulled out my phone, desperate, no signal. Not even a sliver of a bar. Just no service. My lifeline was gone. Completely useless. I pulled out the paper map again, the blurry, hand-drawn one. I stared at it, but the drawing was so vague. I couldn't tell where I was. There were no landmarks, no numbered markers, just scribbled lines that all looked the same. A big, confusing mess. My hands trembled as I held the map. I turned around. My jaw was tight. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I took a deep breath. I had to try again. I couldn't just stand there. I started walking. This time I paid attention. Every tree, every rock. I pulled out my pocket knife. The small, sharp blade glinted in the fading light. I found a tree, a big old oak. Its bark was rough and gnarled. I carved a line into its bark. Deep, so I'd know it. A jagged, clear line, a mark that was definitely mine. I kept walking, faster this time. My legs burned. I pushed through the trees. I counted my steps. 1, 2, 3. I kept my eyes peeled for anything familiar. I watched the sun. It was getting lower. The light was turning orange and red. The shadows grew long and distorted. They danced around me, like silent, mocking figures. I walked for at least 40 minutes, maybe more. My breath was coming in ragged gasps. My lungs ached. I was sure I was going the right way this time. I was paying attention to every detail, every twist and turn. And then, there it was. The same tree, the big old oak, and the same carved line. My line, right there, staring back at me. It was like a cruel joke. I had looped again. My stomach sank even lower. A cold dread spread through my whole body. This wasn't right. This wasn't a normal trail. This trail, it wasn't ending. It was just going in circles, over and over, like a broken record. I tried to calm myself, to think straight. My mind was racing, but it felt like it was stuck. Maybe it was just a figure 8 loop, like a giant number 8, and I kept circling the inner part. Yeah, that had to be it. I just needed to find the crossover. That's what I told myself. A desperate hope. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. This felt different. It felt wrong. Like the trail itself was playing a trick on me, like it was alive and laughing. Then I heard it. Laughter. Distant. Software. A child's laughter. My blood ran cold. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked up. It echoed through the trees. Software lilting, like a little girl giggling. It sounded innocent, but it wasn't. It sounded unnatural, too perfect, too clear, like it was right next to my ear, but also far away. It wasn't coming from ahead or behind. It was all around me, like the trees themselves were laughing. It faded almost as quickly as it started, leaving the forest dead silent again, even heavier than before. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. It felt like a drum solo in my chest. I didn't think. I just reacted. I ran. Not jogged. I ran. Back the way I thought I came. My lungs burned. My legs ached. Every step was a struggle. But I didn't care. I just needed to get away from that sound, from that place. I ran until my vision blurred, until my chest hurt, until I felt like I would fall over. And again. I ended up at the campsite. The same one. The same rotted bench. The same moss. My knees buckled. I almost fell. Despair washed over me, a wave of hopelessness. Only this time, something was different. The backpack, the old sun-bleached one. It was gone. Just gone. The spot where it had been was bare, just dirt and leaves. I stood there, staring at the empty bench. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of it. 1 minute it was there, the next it wasn't, like it had never been there at all. And then I saw it. Nailed to a tree. The same photograph. The family photo. The man, the woman, the little boy. It was tacked right into the bark with a rusty nail. But something was different. Horribly different. The man in the photo. His eyes were scratched out. Just deep black gouges where his eyes should have been, like someone had taken a sharp stick and dug them out. My breath caught in my throat. A scream tried to claw its way out, but no sound came, just a choked gasp. I don't know what came over me. Fear, anger, desperation, all of it. A hot wave of panic, but I just started yelling, screaming into the trees, my voice raw. Hello? Is anyone out there? This isn't funny. Stop it. Show yourself. My voice cracked. It sounded small, lost. The forest just swallowed it up. No response. Just that heavy, dead silence. It was getting dark now. The sun was almost gone. Long shadows stretched out like grasping fingers. They seemed to reach for me, to pull me into the darkness. I couldn't hike in the dark. Not like this. Not with whatever was out here. I had to stay. One more night. The thought made my stomach churn. But I had no choice. I gathered some dead branches. My hands were still shaking. My whole body felt like it was vibrating. I built a fire. A big one. I needed the light. I needed the warmth. The flames danced. They cast flickering light. Every shadow felt like it was about to move, to reach out and grab me. I sat by the fire, shaking. My knife was in my hand. I gripped it so tight my knuckles turned white. I kept staring into the darkness, listening. For anything. For that laughter. For footsteps. For anything at all. But there was nothing. Just the crackle of the fire, and the sound of my own heart beating like a drum. I didn't sleep. Not a wink. I sat with my back pressed against a tree. My eyes burned. Every muscle ached. My head throbbed. But I couldn't close them. Couldn't let my guard down. Not for a second. The night felt like it lasted forever. Each minute stretched into an hour. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of a branch made me jump. I saw shapes in the shadows. My mind played tricks on me. I thought I saw eyes staring from the darkness. Glowing eyes. I thought I heard whispers on the wind. Words I couldn't quite make out. But it was just the forest. Or was it? I kept telling myself it was just my fear. But the fear was real. So real. It was a living thing inside me. Gnawing. Twisting. I felt like I was losing my mind. The fire slowly died down. Just glowing embers. The darkness pressed in closer. I shivered, even though it wasn't cold. I thought about that family. The one in the photo. Were they still out here? Still walking? Still trapped? The thought made my blood run cold. I didn't want to be like them. I had to get out. I just had to. When the sun finally came up, a weak, pale light, I didn't waste time. I didn't even bother trying the trail again. No way. That trail was a trap. I picked a direction, any direction, and I just went. Off trail. Straight into the thick trees. I pushed through thorns, they tore at my clothes, scratched my skin. I climbed over fallen logs, my legs burned with effort, my muscles screamed. I scrambled over rocks, downhill, anything that felt like it wasn't a part of that cursed loop. I just wanted to get away. My clothes got snagged, my skin got scratched, but I didn't care. I just kept pushing, branch after branch, tree after tree. My breath was ragged, my throat was raw, I tasted blood. I stumbled and fell, picked myself up, kept going. I didn't know where I was going, just away from that place. After maybe an hour, I heard it, a sound that made my heart leap, a car horn, faint at first, then louder. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. It sounded like freedom. I broke through the last line of trees and landed face first into a ditch, beside a road, a real road, asphalt, not dirt, not a trail. I scrambled up. My legs were wobbly, like jelly, and there it was. My car, right where I left it, sitting in the gravel lot. It looked exactly the same, but I felt different, so different, like a different person. I stumbled over to the driver's side. My hand trembled as I opened the door. I practically fell into the seat. My body ached all over, every bone, every muscle. I pulled out my phone. It buzzed, over and over, like it was trying to make up for lost time. A week's worth of notifications, missed calls, texts, emails, 7 missed calls from my buddy, a voicemail from my mom, texts from friends. My jaw dropped. A week? But here's the thing. I'd only been gone 1 day. I left yesterday morning. It was Friday. Now it was Friday. No, the date on my phone showed it was a week later. My mind reeled. How? How could a week have passed? It felt like a few hours. A long night, but not a week. My head spun. I looked at my reflection in the car window. My beard had grown longer. way longer than one day's growth. It was scruffy and thick. My eyes were sunken. My clothes were torn. My hiking boots were falling apart. The soles were flapping, like I'd walked 100 miles. My water bottles, the ones I'd filled up yesterday morning, they were bone dry, empty, even though I'd only hiked for a few hours, supposedly. And then I saw my arms, my bare arms. They were covered in small, perfectly round scars, dozens of them, like cigarette burns, but they weren't red. They were old, healed, white and smooth, like they'd been there for a long, long time. I stared at them. My mind couldn't make sense of it. What happened to me? What happened in that forest? What did I do? What was done to me? I still don't know. Not really. I never went back. Never even drove past that park again. I couldn't. The thought makes my skin crawl. Just thinking about it makes my stomach clench. But I know what I felt in there. Like I had wandered into something much, much older than any map. Something that didn't care about time or people. Something that just existed. A trail that wasn't meant to end. A place where time just stretched and twisted. And maybe, just maybe, it's still stretching for someone else. I think about that family in the photo. The man, the woman, the little boy. Did they ever get out? Did they find their way? Or are they still walking? Still looping? Still trying to find a way out of that endless trail? I hope not. I really, truly hope not. Because that place, it changes you. It leaves its mark, like those scars on my arms, a constant reminder of the trail without end. And the week I lost, the week I can't remember, the week that just vanished. Sometimes when I'm alone, I still hear it, that soft, distant laughter. And I wonder if it's just in my head, or if it's coming from somewhere else, somewhere far away, somewhere that's still out there, waiting. The drive home was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. I just wanted to be back in my buddy's spare room, even if it was small, even if it felt like a cage. It was a safe cage, a known cage. When I finally pulled up to his place, the sun was setting. The streetlights flickered on. Everything looked normal, too normal. I walked up the steps. My legs felt like lead. I fumbled for my keys. My buddy opened the door before I even got it. His face was pale. His eyes were wide. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Dude, where have you been? I've been calling you like crazy," he yelled. His voice was shaky. I just stared at him. "I just went hiking. For a day, I told you." My voice sounded raspy. He shook his head. "A day? You've been gone a week. We called the cops. Your mom was freaking out." My stomach dropped again, like it had in the forest. A whole week. It just didn't make sense. I looked down at my clothes. They were covered in dirt, torn in places. My boots were falling apart. He saw my arms, the scars. His eyes got even wider. "What happened to you? What are those?" I pulled my sleeves down, fast. "Nothing. Just branches. You know." I tried to sound normal, but my voice was trembling. He didn't look convinced. He just kept staring at me, like I was a ghost. I walked past him, into the apartment. The smell of his cooking, the familiar clutter. It felt unreal, like I was dreaming, or like I had stepped into a different world, and then stepped back out. I went straight to the bathroom, looked in the mirror. My face was thinner. My eyes were bloodshot. My hair was a mess. My beard was long and scraggly. It really had been a week, but I couldn't remember it. Not a single thing after that first night at the campsite. It was just gone. A blank space in my mind, like a missing puzzle piece. I splashed water on my face, cold water. It didn't help. The scars on my arms burned, not with pain, but with a strange deep ache, like they were still fresh, even though they looked old and healed. I touched one. It was smooth, too smooth, like it wasn't even my skin. I tried to remember. Anything. What happened that night? The laughter, the scratched out eyes in the photo, the backpack disappearing. It all came back in flashes, but the rest was just darkness, a void. What did I do for a week? Where was I? My buddy kept asking questions. Are you okay? What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I just shrugged. I don't know. I really don't know. How could I explain it? He wouldn't believe me, nobody would. A trail that loops forever. A week gone missing, scars that appeared out of nowhere. It sounded like a crazy story, a nightmare. But it was real. So real. I tried to sleep that night, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw the trees, the dark shadows. I heard the child's laughter, closer now, right in my ear. It wasn't soft anymore. It was sharp, mocking. And I saw the man's face in the photo, his eyes, or where his eyes should have been. I jolted awake, my heart pounding, sweat dripping down my face. It was still dark outside. I got up, paced the room. I couldn't stay still. I felt this restless energy inside me, like I still needed to walk, to keep moving, to escape something that was still chasing me. The next few days were hard. I tried to act normal, but I couldn't. Everything felt different. The city noise sounded louder. The lights felt too bright. People's faces seemed blurry. I kept looking at my phone, checking the date, making sure it was still the right day. I tried to research Alpine Preserve again, but the website was gone. Just a blank page. The old blogs I found before, they were gone too, like they had never existed. It was like the park itself had just disappeared, or like it never wanted to be found. I talked to my buddy about it, casually. Hey, you ever heard of Alpine Preserve? He frowned. Alpine what? Never heard of it. Is that a new park? I shook my head. No, it's an old one, in the Appalachians. He just shrugged. Nah, man, doesn't ring a bell. He looked at me funny, like I was making it up. I stopped talking about it. What was the point? No one would understand. But the scars on my arms were real. The missing week was real. The fear was real. I started having nightmares. Every night, the same dream. Walking on that trail, endless trees, the same hills, the sun getting lower, the air getting heavy, and then the laughter, always the laughter. It would get louder and louder, until I woke up screaming. My buddy would come in, ask if I was okay. I'd just say it was a bad dream. But it was more than that. It was a memory that was locked away, a memory of what happened in that lost week. I tried to remember. I really did. I sat for hours, closing my eyes, thinking. But it was just darkness, a wall, like my brain had put a block there, to protect me, or to hide something. I didn't know which was worse. Sometimes, I'd feel a strange pull, a whisper in my mind, telling me to go back, to find the trail again, to finish the loop, to find out what happened. But then the fear would come back, a cold, heavy dread, and I'd shake it off. No way. Never again. I knew what that place was. It wasn't just a park. It was something else. Something ancient. Something hungry. Something that played games. It played games with time, with people's minds. It lured them in, and it kept them. I think about that family in the photo, the man, the woman, the little boy. Day 3, no signal. Keep heading west. That's what it said. They were trapped, just like I was, for a week. Maybe they were there for months, years. Time meant nothing to that place. It just stretched and twisted. I wonder what they saw, what they heard, what they did, what they became. Did they get out, or are they still walking, still looping, still trying to find a way out of that endless trail? I hope not. I really, truly hope not, because that place, it changes you. It leaves its mark, like those scars on my arms, a constant reminder of the trail without end. And the week I lost, the week I can't remember, the week that just vanished. Sometimes when I'm alone, I still hear it, that soft, distant laughter. It sounds so innocent, but I know better, and I wonder if it's just in my head, or if it's coming from somewhere else, somewhere far away, somewhere that's still out there, waiting for the next person, for the next lost soul looking for a reset button, looking to escape. And I pray they never find Alpen Preserve, because once you're on that trail, it might never end. It all started with a letter, just a plain white envelope, no return address on it anywhere. It felt thin, like there wasn't much inside, just a piece of paper maybe. I almost threw it away, to be honest with you. My YouTube channel, Unsolved Mysteries with Leo, was dying a slow, painful death. Views were way down, like a rock sinking in water, and nobody seemed to care anymore about what I was doing. My last big story, man, it ended bad. Real bad. Someone got hurt because of me, a real bad accident that was all my fault. I felt sick about it every single day, a heavy weight in my stomach. It was my fault, deep down in my bones. I'd chased a ghost story in an old, empty hospital. I pushed too hard, ignored warnings. A kid, just a teenager, got lost in the dark halls because of my stupid video. He fell, broke his leg pretty bad. His parents sued me, and my channel, my whole life, it just crashed. I lost everything, my sponsors, my fans, my belief in myself. I sat there looking at that plain envelope on my messy kitchen table. My apartment was small, dusty, and felt empty, just like my life. The guilt was a constant ache. Inside the envelope was a picture, a Polaroid, the kind that develops right in front of your eyes, all blurry at first, then clear. It showed a dark, wet spot on a wooden floor, like a spilled drink, but way worse. It looked like blood, but it was too dark, almost black, like old tar, and way too shiny. It looked wrong, like something I couldn't understand, something that shouldn't be there. Underneath the picture it said, "It's calling again. Cold water will come before it takes another." My stomach dropped a little, a cold feeling spreading inside me, like ice water. Cold water. I'd heard of it, a tiny town way up in New England, tucked away in the woods, almost forgotten. People said it was always foggy, always quiet, like time just forgot about it completely. The old mill there, it was just a skeleton of a building, all broken down and empty, with no roof in some places, just beams pointing at the sky. It had been empty since the 1950s, people said, just standing there, rotting. Locals stayed far away from it, like it had a sickness, like it was going to make them sick too, just by looking at it. They whispered about it, but never too loud, never where anyone else could hear, like it was a secret curse. I needed a big story, something huge, something to fix things, to make my channel popular again, to bring back my old life. I needed to make people forget my last mess, to make them trust me again, to believe in me, to forgive me. This letter felt like a chance, a weird, scary chance, like a door opening to somewhere I didn't want to go, but had to. Even if it scared me a bit, a lot actually, I knew I had to go. It was my only shot. So I packed my gear, my camera, my laptop, a few changes of clothes, just the basics, shoved into a backpack. The drive felt long, like it would never end, mile after mile of empty road, stretching forever. The highway slowly turned into a smaller road, then just a winding path through thick woods. The trees got thicker and darker the closer I got to Coldwater. They seemed to close in around the road, like watching me, like they knew where I was going, into trouble. The air grew heavy, damp, and cool, even though it was summer. A mist started to cling to the car windows, making it hard to see. The world outside turned blurry and gray. The fog rolled in as I drove into town, thick and white, like a blanket. It hugged the old houses, made everything look spooky and blurry, like a dream or a painting. The town was so quiet, it felt like a ghost town already, like no one lived there. I saw a few cars, parked crookedly, a dim light in a window, but no people walking around, no kids playing, just silence and fog. It felt like the town was holding its breath. I tried talking to people. I stopped at a gas station, its sign flickering. The old man behind the counter just grunted. I asked about the mill, about the letter, about anything strange that had happened. He just looked away from me, his eyes darting around like he was looking for something to hide behind. Or he mumbled something about leaving things alone, about not stirring up trouble. His eyes were full of something I couldn't quite name, but it felt like fear, deep and old. I tried the small general store next, the bell above the door jingling too loudly in the quiet. The woman there just shook her head, her lips pressed tight. "We don't talk about that," she said, her voice flat. "Some things are best left buried," an old man whispered, pulling his hat down low over his eyes, like he was hiding from the sun, or from me. His voice was raspy, like old leaves crunching underfoot. His eyes looked tired, so tired like he'd seen too much bad stuff in his life, things he couldn't unsee, things that haunted him. He looked like he carried a heavy secret, a burden on his shoulders, weighing him down. But I kept asking. I had to know. I needed this story to save my channel, to save myself. I needed a big hit, something to make people forget, something to make them look at me differently. Finally, a woman at the diner, her name tag said Betty. She just sighed, a deep, tired sound, like she was giving up on something. She poured me more coffee, her hand shaking a little, spilling some. "The blood spot," she said, her voice barely a whisper, like she was afraid someone else would hear her, even though the diner was empty. "Every 10 years it shows up. Always the same, always bad." Then she told me the worst part, and my heart started to pound hard in my chest, like a drum beating too fast. And someone always vanishes right after, just gone, like they were never here. My breath caught in my throat. "The next time it was supposed to show up was in just a few days," she said, her eyes wide. I felt a cold dread settle over me, chilling me to the bone, making me shiver. I found the library. It was small, dusty, and smelled like old paper and forgotten stories, a quiet place, like a tomb for books. That's where I met Clint Holt. He was the librarian, a quiet man with kind eyes behind thick glasses, always looking at books, always reading. He seemed nervous, like he was holding something back, a secret he shouldn't tell. But he talked to me. He said the town had a dark history, a really bad one, full of sad things, full of disappearances. He hinted at a ritual, something tied to the mill, something old and evil, something that demanded things. "My grandfather," he said, his voice soft, almost like a secret, like he was telling me something he shouldn't, something dangerous. He went into that mill, looking for answers. Never came out, just like that. A chill went down my spine, right to my toes. It was like a cold hand touching me, a ghostly touch making my skin prickle. I shivered, even though the library was warm and still. Clint told me about a girl, Maeve, a teenager, just a kid really, still in high school, maybe 16. "She says she hears things from the mill," he explained. "The town just thinks she's troubled," he added, his voice sad, like he felt bad for her, like he knew what she was going through. "They think she's making it up, or she's just sick in the head seeing things." I felt a pang of pity for Maeve. No one believing her, no one listening to her words, no one helping her. I knew what that felt like in a way after my last video and all the hate I got. Clint led me to a dusty shelf, way in the back, hidden behind other books, like it was meant to be secret. "My grandfather's things," he said, his hand trembling a little as he pointed. He kept a journal. It was old, its cover worn smooth from so many years, the leather soft and faded. It felt heavy in my hands, like it held a lot of secrets, a heavy burden, a story of pain. The journal was from the 1800s, a long, long time ago, before anyone I knew was born. It talked about a cult, people who worshipped something called the Crimson Echo. They thought it needed blood. The words were hard to read, faded ink on yellowed pages, almost gone, like whispers from the past. It talked about sacrifices, about giving up people to this thing to make it happy. My hands shook a little as I read. The journal just stopped, mid-sentence. Like the writer was pulled away, right in the middle of a thought, in the middle of writing, suddenly gone. The last entry was about the author going to the mill, going to face it, to find answers. He vanished, Clint told me, just like the others, swallowed up by the mill, never seen again. I had to see it. The mill. I drove out there, the fog thick around my car, making the world disappear, making it hard to see the road. The building loomed, dark and scary, like a giant shadow, a monster. It looked like a monster, all teeth and shadows, waiting to eat me, waiting to claim me. I pushed open the heavy wooden door. It groaned like a dying animal, a long, sad sound, full of pain. Inside it was cold, even though it was summer, a deep, bone-chilling cold that seemed to sink into my skin, making me shiver. It felt like walking into a freezer, or a grave. Dust motes danced in the weak light from the broken windows, like tiny fairies, or lost souls. The air smelled of decay, like something old and rotten, like a tomb, like death. And something else I couldn't quite place. Like old rust and something sweet, sickeningly sweet, like too many flowers left to die. A sickly perfume, a smell of decay and something else. Then I saw it. On the floor, right in the middle of the main room, under a broken skylight, a dark stain. The blood spot. It was exactly like the picture. It looked fresh, like it had just appeared, still wet and dark, glistening under the weak light. It seemed to pulse, a deep, dark red, like a beating heart, alive and throbbing. It wasn't just a stain, it looked alive, like it was breathing, slowly, deeply, like a living thing. My stomach twisted into a knot, a cold, hard ball of fear. I pulled out my camera, my hands shaking so much I almost dropped it on the floor, my fingers fumbling. I aimed it at the spot, hit record. The screen flickered, then went dark. Then, the sound. A low, distorted whisper, like wind through dry leaves, barely there. It sounded like my name. My blood ran cold, colder than the mill air, colder than ice. The camera glitched again, a broken image on the screen, then went completely black. Dead. Nothing. Just a useless piece of plastic in my shaking hand. I stared at the spot, then at the dead camera, then back at the spot. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it, trying to find a reason, a normal explanation. This wasn't just some old stain. This was something else entirely, something I couldn't explain, something that shouldn't be real, something that knew my name. It knew me. I went back to the library, my mind buzzing, 100 thoughts crashing together, like waves on a shore, loud and confusing. Clint was there, looking through some old maps, his brow furrowed in worry. I saw it, I told him, my voice a little shaky, like I'd run a long race and was out of breath, panting. The blood spot. It's there, it's real, and it knows my name. He looked up, his face pale, like he'd seen a ghost, or maybe he had many times. It's here then. He didn't sound surprised, just sad, like he already knew this was coming, like he expected it. I told him about the camera, how it died, and the whisper, how it said my name, clear as day. He just nodded slowly, his eyes far away, looking at something I couldn't see, something in the past. It knows when you're looking, he said, his voice quiet, almost a sigh, a tired sound. It doesn't like it. It never does. It wants to be left alone. It wants to hide. I spent the next few days digging, trying to find more answers, trying to understand what this thing was. I went through old town records, dusty newspaper clippings, anything I could find in the library. It was all there, just like the diner lady said, written down in black and white, clear as day. Every 10 years, someone disappeared from Coldwater. Since 1853, like clockwork. Always around the time the blood spot showed up, like a terrible clock, marking time with disappearances. And the victims? Always outsiders, or people who didn't believe, who went to the mill to disturb it. I felt a knot of dread in my stomach, growing tighter and tighter, a cold, heavy feeling, like a stone. I was an outsider. I was a skeptic. I fit the description perfectly. I was next. I went back to the mill, but this time I was more careful, more ready, more scared. I explored the basement, a dark hole beneath the main floor, even scarier than upstairs, like going into a cave. It was even darker, colder down there, the air thick and heavy, like it was pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe, making me feel small and trapped. The darkness felt alive. I saw them then, carvings on the rough stone walls, deep cuts, like someone had scratched them with their nails. Faces, twisted in pain, their mouths open in silent screams, like they were trapped forever in the stone. Their eyes were all scratched out, deep gouges in the stone, like someone had tried to erase them, to make them disappear, to forget them. It made my skin crawl, gave me goosebumps all over. I kept my camera rolling, even though it felt wrong, like I was intruding on something sacred and terrible, something ancient and evil. I heard it then. Footsteps. Slow, dragging steps, like someone was shuffling their feet across the dusty floor, heavy and slow. I froze, listening hard, my heart pounding in my ears like a drum, loud and fast. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small and weak in the darkness, swallowed by the silence, by the heavy air. Nothing, just the sound of my own breathing, loud and ragged. But the footsteps kept going, moving around me, even though I was alone in the dark, I swear. It was like someone was walking right beside me, just out of sight, just behind me, like an invisible person was following me, circling me, getting closer. I got out of there fast, scrambling up the stairs, tripping once, almost falling. My heart was pounding like a drum against my ribs. I knew I wasn't alone in that mill. Not really. Something was there with me. Something that watched me. Something that followed me. Something that wanted me. I saw Maeve again a few days later. She found me near the library, looking pale and tired, like she hadn't slept in days, her eyes red and puffy. "You need to leave," she said, her voice urgent, like she was trying to warn me about a fire, about something terrible coming. "Now, before it's too late for you." "The blood spot," she explained, her eyes wide with fear, shining in the dim light like a scared animal. "I dream about it. It gets bigger, like it's feeding." She shivered, wrapping her arms around herself, trying to get warm, trying to hold herself together. "Feeding on doubt," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper, a scared sound. She begged me to go, to just leave Coldwater and never look back, to forget everything I'd seen, to save myself. "It'll take you too," she said, her voice breaking, full of tears. I tried to calm her, told her it was just a story, just old superstitions, nothing real, nothing to worry about. But her words stuck with me, like glue, hard to shake off. I dismissed it as superstition, tried to tell myself it was all in my head, just my imagination running wild. But a part of me, a small, scared part, started to believe her. The town started to turn on me. People glared at me in the street, their faces hard and angry, like I was the enemy, like I was bringing trouble. My car was vandalized, the tires slashed flat. Someone spray-painted "Leave" in big, angry letters on my hotel room door, like a threat, like a warning. It felt like the whole town wanted me gone, wanted me out, wanted me to disappear. And my footage, the stuff I'd recorded in the mill, it was gone, deleted. My laptop was fine, but the files were just vanished, like they never existed, like magic. Clint came to my hotel room late that night. He looked even more worried than usual, his face drawn and pale, like he hadn't eaten or slept in days. "They don't want you here, Leo," he said, his voice low and serious, a warning, a plea. "They think you're stirring it up, making it angry, waking it up from its sleep." He told me more about his grandfather, the one who vanished. "He left a warning," Clint whispered, looking around like someone was listening outside the door in the hall. "Just a note. It said, 'Don't look too long.' That's all it said." He handed me a folded, yellowed piece of paper, thin and old. That night, I started having visions. When I was near the blood spot, or even just thinking about it, my mind would show me things, scary things, things that weren't real. I saw a woman. She was dressed in white, like a bride, but her face was blurry, like looking through water, impossible to see clearly. She was always there, in my mind. She was reaching out from the blood spot, her hand stretching towards me, long and thin, her fingers beckoning, calling me closer. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, screaming sometimes. Sometimes things would move in my hotel room when I was sleeping. A pen rolling off the table, a book falling from a shelf with a loud thud, making me jump. I'd hear my name, whispered right next to my ear, even when my windows were closed tight, locked. It was everywhere, in my head, in the air around me, always there. I was losing it. I knew it, deep down in my gut. My mind was breaking, slowly, painfully, piece by piece. But I couldn't stop. I had to know what this thing was, what it wanted from me. I went back to the mill, drawn to it like a moth to a flame, even though I knew it was dangerous, deadly. The blood spot was still there, but it looked different now. It seemed to have moved a little, closer to the door, like it was creeping towards the exit, trying to escape the mill. It wasn't just blood anymore, not just a stain. It shifted, like liquid mercury, forming strange symbols I couldn't understand, twisting and turning, changing shape. They pulsed with a faint, dark light, like something evil inside. I took a tiny sample, just a drop, with a sterile syringe I had in my kit, carefully, my hand shaking. I sent it to a contact, a friend who worked in a lab far away, in a big city. He called me back a day later, sounding confused, almost scared, his voice tight with worry. "Leo, what is this stuff?" he asked, his voice shaking a little. "It's not human DNA, it's organic, but I can't identify it. It's like nothing I've ever seen, nothing in my books, nothing on Earth." "It's alive, Leo," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, like he was telling a secret. "But it's not from here, not from Earth. It's alien." My blood ran cold, colder than ice. I started live streaming from cold water, setting up my phone, pointing it at the mill. I thought maybe if I shared what I found, if enough people saw it, it would help. People started watching. But then the comments came in, fast and furious, filling my screen, making my heart race. "Shadows in the background, Leo. Did you see that figure behind you? Look behind you, Leo. It's right there." I rewatched my footage, my heart pounding, and they were right. I saw them. Faint, dark shapes, moving in the corners of the screen, just at the edge of sight, blurry and quick. I hadn't seen them when I was recording, hadn't noticed a thing. My sleep got worse, way worse, almost non-existent. I'd wake up, unable to move, completely frozen in my bed, paralyzed, sleep paralysis. It felt like something was holding me down, pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I'd hear my name, whispered right next to my ear, even when my windows were closed. It was everywhere. I was losing it. I knew it, deep down in my gut. My mind was breaking, slowly, painfully, piece by piece. But I couldn't stop. I had to know what this thing was, what it wanted from me. Maeve found me again, her eyes wide with fear, like she'd seen a monster, a real one, not a dream. She was shaking, shivering all over, like she was freezing, even in the warm air. "I have to tell you something," she said, her voice barely audible, like a tiny mouse, so quiet. "Something important, something I should have told you a long time ago." She confessed. Her family, they were tied to the cult, the old one from the journal, the one that worshipped the echo. It was their secret, their terrible duty. They were tasked with appeasing the Crimson Echo by luring outsiders to the mill, to be taken, to be eaten, to be sacrificed, to keep the town safe. "I'm next," she whispered, tears in her eyes, running down her pale cheeks like little rivers. "I'm supposed to be the next one to bring someone. They chose me, my own family." But she didn't want to. She wanted to break the cycle, to stop the horror, to end it all, to save others. She was terrified, but also so brave, so strong, so determined. "We have to stop it," she said, her voice gaining strength, becoming firm, like a rock. "Tonight, we have to end it. We have to destroy it. For good. We planned it. We'd sneak into the mill after dark, when the town was asleep, when no one would see us, under the cover of night. We'd destroy the blood spot. We had to." The night was dark, so dark I could barely see my hand in front of my face. The fog was thicker than ever, a heavy blanket covering everything, swallowing the light. The mill looked even more menacing under the moonless sky, a black shape against the gray fog, like a monster waiting. It felt like it was waiting for us, like it knew we were coming. We crept inside, our flashlights cutting through the gloom, making long, dancing shadows on the walls like ghosts. The air was heavy, pressing down on us, making it hard to breathe. The blood spot pulsed, brighter now, a sickening red glow, like a wound that wouldn't heal. It seemed to hum, a low, vibrating sound that made my teeth ache, a deep thrum. We found it. A hidden chamber, right beneath the blood spot, under the main floor. It was accessed by a trap door, almost invisible on the old floorboards, covered in dust and grime. It was covered in dust and grime, like it hadn't been opened in years, maybe decades, maybe centuries. We pulled it open, slowly, carefully, making no sound, just a creak. Down below, it was a small room, dark and cold, like a tomb, silent and still. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols I'd seen on the blood spot, glowing faintly. And bones, human bones, piled in corners, scattered on the floor, like someone had just tossed them there, uncaring, forgotten. Each one had the symbols carved into it, deep gouges in the white bone, like a terrible signature. It made me want to throw up, my stomach churning, my head spinning. The air grew thick, hard to breathe, like something was sucking the oxygen out of the room, making me gasp. The blood spot above us started to expand, growing larger and larger. It spread across the floor, growing bigger and bigger, like a hungry mouth opening wide, ready to swallow us whole. It formed a surface like a dark mirror reflecting the dim light. I looked into it, my reflection staring back at me, distorted, twisted. But it wasn't me. My face morphed, twisted, changed into something else. It became the woman in white, the one from my visions. Her face clear now, horrifyingly clear. Her eyes were empty, black holes, staring right through me, into my soul, into my fear. She screamed. A silent scream, but I felt it deep in my bones, vibrating through my whole body, making me shake, making my teeth chatter. "You brought me," her voice echoed in my head. Then, the chamber sealed shut. The trapdoor slammed down with a loud thud, shaking the whole room, trapping us inside, in the dark. We were stuck. I heard a noise above us. The trapdoor opened again, slowly, creaking, letting in a sliver of light. It was Clint. My heart sank, a cold, heavy feeling settling in my chest. He looked different. His eyes were cold, hard, like stones, without any warmth, without any kindness. His face was empty, without any emotion. "You shouldn't have come back, Leo," he said, his voice flat. "He told us. He was part of the cult. He was tasked with making sure the sacrifice happened, making sure the Echo got what it wanted, what it needed. The Crimson Echo is a forgotten god," he said, his voice chillingly calm, like he was talking about the weather, so casual. "It feeds on doubt, on disbelief. It grows stronger with every skeptic it consumes," he finished, his eyes fixed on me, a hungry look, a terrible hunger. He raised a knife, its blade glinting in the dim light. Maeve screamed, a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the air, full of terror, full of pain. She lunged at him, trying to stop him, trying to push him away from me, to save me. They struggled, Maeve fighting with all her might, kicking and screaming, clawing. Clint was stronger, though. He stabbed her. My breath caught in my throat, a gasp of horror, a silent scream. Maeve fell, her blood spilling onto the floor, mixing with the dark, pulsing blood spot, making it glow brighter, hungrier. Clint dragged her body towards the expanding spot. He offered her blood to it, a terrible, ancient offering, a sacrifice to the thing. The spot pulsed violently, a sickening, hungry throb, like a monster eating, gulping. The walls of the chamber began to crack, long lines appearing in the stone, spreading quickly, like spider webs. This wasn't a god. It was a parasite, from somewhere else, somewhere far away and evil, beyond our world, beyond our understanding. It used the cult, used the town, to anchor itself here, to stay, to feed. It fed on fear, on doubt. It had manipulated me, my investigation, to make itself stronger, to draw more attention, more food, more victims, more power. I wouldn't let it win. I wouldn't. I grabbed my camera, the one that had died earlier. It was still dead, but I had an idea, a desperate last-ditch idea, but I remembered the flash. It fears the dawn. the journal had hinted. A tiny clue, a small hope. Light. That was its weakness, its only weakness, its undoing. I aimed the camera at the writhing, expanding blood spot, my hands shaking, but my mind clear. I pressed the flash button, over and over again, as fast as I could, blinding flashes. The light burst out, blinding flashes, like tiny suns exploding in the dark room, filling it with pure light. The blood spot screamed, a deafening wail that shook the whole mill. The sound was so loud it hurt my ears, made my head throb, made my teeth ache, made my bones vibrate. The windows above us shattered, glass raining down like sharp tears. My live stream, still somehow running, captured it all, every terrifying second, every flash, every scream. The entity's true form, a writhing, eyeless mass of darkness. It was horrible, a nightmare made real, a monster from a bad dream, a true horror. It pulsed, then shriveled, like a plant dying in the sun, shrinking into nothing. It collapsed into ash, a dark, smoking pile on the floor, leaving nothing but dust, nothing but a memory. The air cleared, suddenly fresh and clean, like after a storm, like a new beginning. The silence was deafening. Maeve. I crawled to her, my hands shaking, my body aching, my heart breaking. She was barely breathing, her chest moving so little, so weak. Her eyes were glazed over, staring at nothing. She reached for the old journal. It had fallen from Clint's pocket during the struggle, lying on the floor, open. With her last strength, she burned it. The pages curled, then turned to ash, crumbling into nothing, like dust in the wind, carried away, severing the cult's hold, breaking the cycle, once and for all, forever. "Tell them I stopped it," she whispered, her voice fading, barely there, a final breath, a last message. Then, she was gone. Her eyes closed, peaceful now, finally at rest. The mill was collapsing around me, groaning and creaking, falling apart, piece by piece. Dust and debris rained down, hitting me, covering me, burying me. I stumbled out, coughing, tears streaming down my face. The blood spot was gone. The mill crumbled behind me, falling into a pile of wood and stone, just a ruin, a memory. My footage somehow, it went viral. I was famous, more famous than I ever wanted to be, a hero to some, a madman to others. But I was broken, shattered inside. Maeve's death haunted me every single day, every night. The entity's last whisper, too, echoed in my mind, a cold promise. "I'll find you again." It was a promise, not a threat, a chilling promise that never left me. I posted the footage, a warning to everyone, a story of what happened so they would know, so they would be careful. Coldwater was abandoned, a ghost town for real now, empty and quiet. But the rumors started. Whispers on the internet, in dark corners, in forums, a new blood spot, in another old mill, miles away, in a different state, far from Coldwater. I watched my footage again, late one night, alone in my new apartment, in a new city, trying to escape. The part where my reflection morphed in the blood spot. I saw it. A frame I'd missed before, hidden in the quick flash, a split second, almost invisible, my reflection in the blood spot. It was smiling, a wide, cold smile. I never smiled like that. The screen cut to black, a faint whisper, like the wind through dead leaves, right in my ear, chilling me. Soon. My name is Mark. I've been driving for this app, QuickHop, for a while now. It's not like Uber or Lyft, you know, just a small company trying to make it here in the Midwest. I started doing it after my divorce. Things got tough, real fast. Bills piled up, and I needed something extra, anything. My old job just wasn't cutting it anymore. My small apartment felt bigger, emptier. The quiet inside my head was loud sometimes. Driving helped fill that quiet, at least for a bit. I felt like a ghost in my own life, just moving through the days, trying to keep everything from falling apart. Most of my rides were pretty normal. College kids heading to parties, laughing and loud. They smelled like cheap perfume and hope. Older folks going to church, quiet and polite. Sometimes someone needing a late-night ride home from the bar. They were usually sleepy or a little too happy. Nothing exciting ever happened. Just the same roads, the same faces, day in, day out. It was just a way to keep the lights on, a way to buy groceries, to feel like I was still doing something useful with my time. Every mile felt like a small win. Each one brought me closer to paying off some debt. Every dollar I earned was a little bit of hope. It was a grind though, long hours, tired eyes. My back ached from sitting, but it was honest work. It was my work now, my new normal. I'd listen to the radio, mostly old rock songs. Sometimes I'd just drive in silence, thinking about how my life had changed, how fast it all went downhill, how I ended up here, alone. But then, last Thursday night, my phone buzzed. It was late, past midnight, really. I was thinking about heading home. My eyelids felt heavy. My body was tired. I just wanted to be in my own bed. A new ride request popped up on the screen. The bright light from it lit up my face in the dark car, and it was from a place I'd never heard of, not in all my years living around here. Granite Dock. That's what the screen said. Clear as day. It said it was past the marshes, way out of Wren County. I've lived in this town for 12 years, maybe more, and that name just didn't ring a bell. Not at all. It felt like a made-up place, like it shouldn't exist. The app showed the pickup as anonymous QuickHop user. That's not super weird for our app QuickHop. Some folks just use fake emails, or they don't want their real names out there. I didn't think much of it then. What really got my attention was the money. My eyes went wide. My jaw almost dropped. The app said it was a $28 bonus, just to drive 11 minutes out, and then 8 minutes back. That's what the map showed. A quick, easy trip. A big payout. That's almost 3 times what I usually make for a short trip. My stomach did a little flip. A hopeful flip. That kind of money could really help right now. It could cover a bill, or buy a week's worth of food. It could make a difference, a real difference. I needed it. I looked at the screen, then at the clock on my dashboard. It was getting really late. My eyelids felt heavy. But that bonus, I couldn't just let it go. It was too much to pass up. It felt like a gift. My mind raced. Maybe it was a mistake? A glitch in the app? Or maybe someone was really desperate for a ride out there. Someone who didn't care about the cost. Someone who really needed to get somewhere. Fast. I thought about my empty fridge at home. The overdue bills sitting on my kitchen counter. The ones I tried not to look at. The ones that kept me up at night. The ones that made my chest feel tight. That $28 looked like a lifeline. A little piece of good luck. A chance to breathe easier. A chance to feel like I wasn't drowning anymore. Just for a little while. So, I tapped the screen. My finger hesitated just for a second. It hovered. Then it pressed down. A firm push. I accepted the ride. My old beat-up sedan was already pointed that way, almost on its own. Like it knew. Like it was drawn to the money. Just like I was. The engine hummed to life. I put it in drive. And I started heading out of town. The drive out was quiet at first. The streetlights faded away behind me. They turned into tiny dots. Then they were gone. Replaced by the dark, open country. The black sky above. The air got colder as I drove. It felt damp too. Like rain was coming, but it wasn't. The trees on the side of the road started to look different. Taller, darker, like they were watching me. I kept checking my GPS just to be sure I was going the right way. The blue line on the screen. It was the only thing guiding me, the only thing that felt real. The road narrowed down to a single lane. It got darker and darker. No houses, no lights, just endless fields, and the dark shapes of trees, stretching out forever. Then it turned into rough gravel. My tires crunched and spat stones out behind me. The car bounced a little. It felt like I was driving into nothing, into the middle of nowhere, away from everything I knew. Then the fog started. It wasn't just a little mist like you sometimes see in the morning. This was different. This was thick, really thick, like someone had poured milk all over the world. A giant white blanket, rolling in, fast. It came out of nowhere, swallowing the trees at the side of the road, swallowing the fields. My headlights, even on high beam, just seemed to disappear into it. They couldn't cut through. I couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead, maybe even less. It was like driving blind. The world outside my car became a blurry white mess, like I was in a cloud. It felt like driving through a dream, or maybe a nightmare, the kind where everything is blurry, and you can't tell what's real, what's just in your head, what's actually out there. The GPS signal started to flicker. The blue line on the screen jumped around. Then it went out completely. Just a blank screen. My heart thumped a little faster. A cold feeling started in my stomach. I was truly lost now. No map, no directions. Just me and the fog. I slowed down. My foot eased off the gas pedal. I squinted into the white wall of fog. My eyes strained, trying to see anything at all. The air felt heavy, damp, and strangely still. There was no wind, no sounds at all, no crickets chirping, no distant cars, just the quiet hum of my engine and my own breathing. It was so quiet, I could almost hear my own blood pumping. A low, steady thrum. After what felt like forever, the road opened up a bit, just a little wider. And there it was, Granite Dock. It was just a small, old wooden dock. It looked like it had been there for 100 years, weathered and worn. It jutted out into what looked like a dark, still lake, or maybe a wide river. I couldn't tell in the fog. The water was black, like ink, and perfectly still. No ripples. I saw him then. A man, standing right at the very end of the dock. He was just standing there. He was facing away from me, looking out over the water, or where the water should be, into the thickest part of the fog. No car anywhere around, no boat tied up to the dock, just him, alone in the thick, swirling fog. He looked like he'd been waiting for a very long time, like he was part of the fog, like he had always been there. He was wearing a dark trench coat, the kind you see in old movies. It looked heavy and old. It seemed to soak up the light, making him look like a dark shape. His pants were dark too, and his shoes looked super shiny, even in the dim light, like they were brand new, too new for this place, too perfect. He looked too clean for this place, too put together, like he didn't belong out here in the middle of nowhere. He wasn't even facing me. He was just staring out into the fog, like he was waiting for something else to come out of it. Not me, not my car, something else. It gave me a weird feeling, a bad feeling. My skin started to prickle, a cold tingle. I pulled my car up slowly, my foot on the brake, stopping a few feet from him. My engine hummed. It was the only sound in the quiet, a low, steady noise. I rolled down my window. The cold, damp air rushed in. It smelled like wet earth and something else. Something old. Something like damp stone and something faintly metallic. "You call for a quick hop?" I asked. My voice sounded a little shaky. Even to me. It felt thin in the thick air, like it might just disappear. He didn't answer. He just kept staring out into the fog. His back was still to me, his shoulders were stiff, he didn't move a muscle. My hand tightened on the steering wheel, my knuckles turned white, my gut started to twist. A knot formed deep inside me, a warning. I almost put the car in reverse right then. My gut was screaming at me, just leave. This whole thing felt wrong, every single part of it. The fog, the place, the man. It felt like a trap, like I had driven right into it. But then, he moved. He turned his head, slowly, like his neck was stiff, like he was a broken doll, or something that wasn't quite human. Only his head, not his whole body. His body stayed facing the water. His face was pale, really pale, like he'd put white powder on it, or like he hadn't seen the sun in years. His skin looked smooth, too smooth, like marble. His lips moved, just a little bit, but I couldn't hear a single sound, not one word. It was like he was talking, but no words came out. Or maybe the fog swallowed them up. Maybe the fog was eating his voice. I was about to tell him to forget it, to just cancel the ride, to get out of here, to make up some excuse, anything to get away. But before I could even open my mouth again, he started walking. He moved so smoothly, like he was gliding, not really walking at all. He walked straight to my car. He didn't hesitate. He didn't look at me. He opened the front passenger door, and he got in, without asking, without a word, without a single look at me. He just slid into the seat. That was the first big red flag, a huge one, a giant, flapping red flag. And I mean, nobody gets in the front seat unless I say it's okay. It's just not how it works. It's my car, my space. It's a rule, a simple, unspoken rule. My heart hammered in my chest. It felt like a drum, a really loud drum. I wanted to tell him to get out, to just leave. But the words got stuck in my throat. They just wouldn't come out. My mouth felt dry. My tongue felt thick. It was like my voice had been stolen, like I couldn't make a sound. Heading to 113 Carson Hill? I asked. I tried to sound normal, casual. My voice came out raspy. Not at all normal. That was the address on the app, the one he put in, the one I was supposed to drive him to. He didn't answer me. He just sat there, looking straight ahead through the windshield, into the fog, still and silent, like a statue, like he wasn't even breathing. Then he spoke. His voice was low, flat, like stones rubbing together, like something that hadn't spoken in a long, long time. No one's lived there since the fire. He said it so calmly, so matter-of-factly, like he was stating a simple truth, a fact everyone knew. I frowned. My eyebrows went down. "It's on the app," I said again, feeling confused. Why would he put that address? If no one lived there? It made no sense. My mind spun, trying to figure it out. He just kept staring forward, didn't even glance at me. "Drive," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a command, a quiet, firm order. It left no room for argument, no room for me to say no. I hesitated. Every part of me wanted to say no, to turn around, to get out of there, to just abandon the car and run into the fog, anything to escape. Something about him, his voice, his stillness made my skin crawl. It was a cold, creepy feeling. It felt like tiny spiders were crawling on my arms. But the app had already marked the trip as active. It was running. And QuickHop, they're really strict about cancellations, especially after you've picked someone up. If I canceled now, I'd probably get a strike, maybe even lose my job, and I couldn't afford that. Not now, not with everything else going on. I needed this job. It was all I had left. So, I put the car in drive. My hands were shaking a little on the wheel, just a tiny tremor. I started driving back the way I came, into the thick, swirling fog, deeper into it. The road to Carson Hill is through an old part of town. It's mostly residential, with older homes. Many of them are empty now. Boards on the windows, overgrown yards. They looked like empty eyes staring out at the road, sad and forgotten. The factories around here, the ones that kept this town alive, they shut down years ago, and when they closed, the neighborhoods around them slowly emptied out too. People left. The town felt like it was slowly dying, house by house, street by street. But what was really strange was that I knew Carson Hill. I knew it very well. It's where I grew up, my childhood street, my old stomping grounds. My grandmother used to live at 113 Carson Hill. That was her house, the one with the big oak tree in the front yard, the one with the porch swing, the one where I spent every summer, playing games, being a kid. I hadn't been back to that street since the fire that happened in 2006. It was a night I tried to forget, a night I pushed deep down. My stomach twisted into a knot, a tight, hard knot. This couldn't be a coincidence. It just couldn't be. Not this address. Not this specific house. Not my grandmother's house. It was too much. "You sure that's where you want to go?" I asked him. My voice was tight. I glanced sideways at him. He nodded slowly, just once. His eyes were fixed ahead, like he was looking at something I couldn't see, something only he could see, in the white wall of fog. I swallowed hard. My throat felt dry. "That place doesn't exist anymore," I said. "Just the frame. The house burned down, years ago." I waited for him to say something. He finally turned his head to look at me. His eyes were flat, like dark stones, no light in them at all, no warmth, no feeling, just emptiness. Exactly, he replied, just that one word, and a shiver went down my spine, a cold, icy shiver. It wasn't just the cold air anymore, it was something else, something deep inside me, something that screamed danger. The fog started to follow us. I'm serious. It wasn't just staying in one spot. It was moving, creeping, like a living thing. I kept checking my rearview mirror, and it was there, right behind us. It was creeping down the road, moving along with the car, like it was alive, like it was a giant white hand, reaching out, slowly closing in on us. The world outside my car was just white, a thick, endless white wall. It pressed in on all sides, like we were in a bubble. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my hands were sweating, my palms were slick, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. I tried to use my phone again. Maybe the signal came back, maybe I could call someone. My ex-wife, my old friend, anyone, no signal. Nothing. The GPS map was still blank, just a white screen. I was cut off, alone with him, in this endless fog. I wanted to turn around so bad, to just hit the brakes, spin the car around, and drive away as fast as I could, leave him and this whole nightmare behind. But when I glanced over at him, he was already staring at me. His head was turned, his pale face looking right at mine. His eyes were fixed on me, like he knew what I was thinking, like he could read my mind. And then, he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, not a friendly one. It was slow, wide, and cold. It didn't reach his eyes at all. It was the kind of smile that makes your blood run cold, the kind that makes you want to scream, the kind that promises something terrible, something you can't escape. We drove on in silence. The only sound was the hum of my engine and the crunch of the tires on the gravel. Every second felt like an hour. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. But nothing made sense. Nothing at all. It was all wrong. The fog got thicker as we got closer to Carson Hill. It felt heavier, like it was pressing down on the car, making it hard to breathe. I could feel my chest getting tight, my breath coming in short, quick gasps. Finally, we reached it. The charred remains of 113 Carson Hill. The skeletal frame of the house still stood there, like a ghost, a dark, broken ghost, blackened wood, reaching up to the sky, like burnt fingers. They looked like accusing fingers, pointing at me. Weeds and tall, wild trees had grown up all around it. They twisted and tangled around the burned timbers. It looked like nature was trying to swallow it whole, to hide what was left, to bury the memory. But it couldn't. There were no lights anywhere, no sound, not even crickets chirping, which was really weird for a night like this. Usually the crickets are loud. It was totally silent, a heavy, dead kind of silence, like the world had stopped breathing, like everything living had fled this place, long ago. He opened the car door. It creaked loudly in the quiet. The sound seemed to echo. It was the loudest sound in the whole world. It made me jump. He stepped out, slowly, onto the overgrown path, his shiny shoes sinking a little into the dirt. He didn't make a sound as he walked, no rustle of his coat, no crunch of leaves. He turned back to me. "Wait here," he said. His voice was still flat, but there was something in it now, something chilling, something that made my stomach clench. It was a quiet threat, a promise of something worse if I didn't listen. Like hell I was going to wait. My foot was already moving towards the brake pedal, ready to put the car in reverse, ready to speed away, to just leave, to get as far away from this place as possible and never look back. But before I could even shift gears, I saw something on my dashboard, right there, on the passenger side, where his hand had been. A Polaroid picture. I swear it wasn't there seconds earlier. My eyes were glued to it. It was a photo of me driving, and it was taken from the back seat of my car, from tonight. The timestamp on the picture read 9:42 p.m. That was the exact moment we had passed the welcome sign for Carson Hill. The moment I started to recognize the road, the moment the dread really started to set in. My breath caught in my throat. How? How could it be there? And who took it? My mind screamed, a silent, frantic scream inside my head. I looked at the house, then back at the picture, then at the empty back seat. My eyes darted around, searching for answers, finding none. I knew I couldn't wait. I couldn't stay in that car for another second, not with that picture staring at me, not with the empty back seat. I opened my door. My hands fumbled with the latch. They were shaking so bad. I got out. My legs felt shaky, like jelly, but I forced myself to walk. I forced myself to follow him. He was already walking towards the house, or what was left of it, his dark coat blending into the shadows. My feet crunched on the broken wood and dry leaves. Each step felt heavy. The ground was uneven, covered in broken bits of wood and dry leaves. The air smelled like old ash and damp earth, a smell I hadn't smelled in years. It brought back a memory, a faint, terrible memory. He stopped inside what used to be the living room. The roof was gone, and the stars shone through the empty space above. Little pinpricks of light. They seemed so far away, so cold and uncaring. He just stood there, looking up at the exposed, blackened beams, like he was looking at the sky, but through a cage. A dark, burnt cage. "This is where it happened," he said. His voice echoed strangely in the open space. It sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away, from another time. "What?" I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. My throat felt tight and dry. I could barely get the word out. My voice was stuck. He turned. Slowly. His face looked different now, younger, sharper. It was like he was aging backward, right in front of my eyes. His skin looked smoother, his eyes brighter, clearer. They weren't flat stones anymore. They held a light, a terrible light. "You don't remember me?" he asked. His voice was different too, softer, but still chilling, still making my skin crawl. It was the voice of a child, but twisted, dark. I didn't answer. My mind was racing, trying to place him, trying to understand, but I couldn't. It was like a puzzle with missing pieces, pieces I didn't want to find, pieces I had buried. My mouth went completely dry. A cold dread spread through me, worse than anything I'd felt before. It was a deep, bone-chilling fear. "I remember you, Ivy," he said. His voice was so soft. My blood ran cold. "Ivy, that's my name. My middle name. The one only my family ever used. My grandmother, my mother. The name I hated. The name I never told anyone, and I never told him. Not a single word about my name. Not to this man. How could he know? How could he possibly know that?" 30 years ago, he continued, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. "You locked the door while I was inside, said it was a game." My knees buckled. The world spun. My head felt light. The air rushed out of my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I remembered. Oh God, I remembered. The memory hit me like a punch to the gut, a punch to my soul. The game. We were just kids, playing hide and seek. It was a summer day, hot and sunny. We were so small. He was so small, just a little boy. I remembered the old matchbox, the one I found in the shed. I remembered lighting a tiny match, just to see the flame. I was being silly, just playing, not thinking. I remembered the tiny scream, a small, scared sound, swallowed by the smoke. A sound I had tried to forget for 30 long years. I remembered running away, running as fast as my little legs could carry me, terrified of what I'd done, terrified of the fire, terrified of the smoke, terrified of the silence that came after. I was just a kid. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. It was an accident, a horrible, terrible accident. I had blocked it out for years, pushed it deep into the darkest corner of my mind. "I tried to get out," he said. He took a step closer. His eyes were sad, but it wasn't a human sadness. It was something else, older, colder. "I was your cousin, my cousin, little Timmy, the one who disappeared, the one no one ever talked about after the fire. His name was never spoken again. His parents moved away. They never looked at me the same way. He started walking towards me, slowly, steadily. My body froze. I couldn't move. My feet were stuck to the ground, like they were glued there. He was getting closer, his pale face, his bright, sad eyes. "I forgive you," he said. His voice was soft, like a breeze, but it felt like a heavy weight pressing down on me, crushing me. It wasn't comforting. It was chilling. It was a judgment. He reached out. His hand felt cold, like ice. It was so pale. He placed something in my hand. My fingers closed around it. It was a second Polaroid. This one was old, faded. The colors were soft, like a dream. It was a picture of two kids on a swing set, laughing, me and him, little Timmy. We were so young, so happy, before everything changed, before the fire, before the secret, and then he vanished, just like that. One moment he was there, the next, he was gone, like smoke, like he was never there at all. The air where he stood felt cold, empty. The house collapsed, not with a crash, not with a roar. It fell with a soundless thud, like someone had hit the mute button on the world. The blackened timbers, the skeletal frame, it all just crumbled into a pile of dust and ash, like it was made of sand, like it was never really there, just a memory. I stood there, frozen, the Polaroid still clutched in my hand. My fingers were numb around it. I couldn't let it go. The silence was deafening. It screamed in my ears. It was the silence of a grave, the silence of a forgotten past. Then a scream tore from my throat. My own scream, loud and raw. It ripped through the silent night. It echoed. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My legs pumped. My lungs burned. My heart pounded like a drum. I ran back to my car, my legs pumping, my heart pounding like a drum. I didn't look back, not once. I just ran. I threw myself into the driver's seat, slammed the door shut. My hands fumbled for the keys. They were shaking so hard, I dropped them, picked them up, shoved them in the ignition. I started the engine, put it in reverse, and sped away from that place, as fast as the car could go, gravel flying behind me. I didn't stop until I was back on the main road, out of the fog, out of the darkness, back where the streetlights started. My car tires squealed as I turned onto the paved road. When I finally dared to look in the rearview mirror, I was alone. Just me. The back seat was empty, the passenger seat was empty. No man in a trench coat, no pale face, nothing. Just the normal empty seats of my car. I checked my phone. The Quick Hop app was open, but the ride was gone. It wasn't there, no record of it. The earnings showed nothing. My balance was zero, like the trip never happened, like it was all a dream, like I had imagined the whole thing, the bonus, the ride, him. I reached into my pocket. The Polaroids. They were gone too, both of them. My hands trembled. Had it all been a dream, a nightmare? Was I losing my mind? Had the stress finally broken me? But then, I remembered my phone camera. I opened my photo gallery, my thumb shaking as I scrolled, looking for proof. And there it was. One photo. The most recent one. It was a picture of me, driving through the fog, and someone was in the back seat, smiling, a cold, wide smile. The same smile, staring right at the camera. His eyes were bright. Too bright. I haven't driven for Quick Hop since that night. Not once. I sold my car. I got a different job. Anything to not be on the road at night. I work in a store now, during the day. It's safe, it's normal, but the fear still lives inside me. A cold, hard lump in my chest. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I still check the app, just out of habit. Or maybe to make sure it's still there, to make sure it wasn't just a dream, a bad dream. And every now and then, I'll randomly get a ping from Granite Dock. The name flashes on my screen, like a warning. But I never accept them. Not anymore. Because I don't want to know how many more rides are trying to come back, how many more ghosts are waiting in the fog, waiting for me, waiting for Ivy. I was 17 the summer my older brother moved out for good. It felt really weird, like a big piece of our house just packed up and left. Our place, A regular 2-story home in a quiet town in Pennsylvania suddenly felt way too big without him around. It was just me and my parents now, and they worked at night. Dad was an emergency room nurse, and Mom handled all the hospital records. So most nights it was just me, all alone in that big, quiet house. That used to be fine. I actually liked it, until it wasn't fine anymore. That summer started out pretty normal, I guess. I spent my evenings playing video games, watching scary movies, and eating those microwave burritos. I'd text my friends until I was so tired I just passed out on the couch. That was my usual, my easy routine. But then the house, it started to change. Not like, the walls moved or anything like that. Nothing you could actually see with your eyes. It just felt different. The quiet wasn't nice anymore. It felt thick, like something was just waiting there in the air, waiting to talk to me, waiting for me to be alone. It all started on a Thursday. It was a regular night, nothing special. I was up late, watching TV in the living room. It was pretty dark outside, just the streetlights shining through the window. That's when I heard it for the first time. A soft click. It came from the floor vent right next to the couch where I was sprawled out. After the click, there was this strange whistling noise. It sounded like someone trying to hum a tune, but with their lips closed tight. I muted the TV real quick and leaned down. I put my ear close to the vent, holding my breath. Nothing. Just the normal cool air coming out, like it always did. I thought maybe a raccoon got into the ducts. Our house was old, and sometimes little animals would find their way in there. It wasn't unheard of, not in our old place. I figured I'd tell Dad about it later, then turn the TV back up. I tried to forget about it, but the sound kind of stayed in my head. The very next night, Friday, the same noise happened again. It was late, just like before, the house quiet around me, but this time I heard it much clearer. It was a whisper, not like words you could understand, not real words, just the idea of words, like someone was trying to talk from underwater, all muffled and strange. I froze on the couch. I just stared at the vent, my eyes wide in the dim light. My heart started beating faster, a quick, nervous thump in my chest. The whisper came again. It was soft, really slow, and somehow, I just knew it was meant for me. It was aimed right at me, like a secret message only I could hear. I turned off the TV. Then, I turned off all the lights in the living room, plunging the room into darkness. I ran upstairs to my room, not even looking back. I didn't sleep much that night. Every little creak of the house made me jump, made my skin crawl. I kept thinking about that whisper, wondering what it was, what it wanted. By the third night, Saturday, it wasn't just about hearing it anymore. I felt it. Like the air right around that vent would get colder, much heavier than the rest of the room. I'd get goosebumps all up and down my arms, even though it wasn't that cold in the house. It was like someone was blowing cold air on me, a chilling breath. The whispering started to sound more like a real voice. It was high-pitched and far away, like a small child calling out from the very end of a long, dark hallway. It made my stomach twist into a tight knot. My parents, of course, didn't believe me. Not really. "Old ducts, Aaron," Dad said, waving his hand. He told me, "They just moan and groan when it cools off at night. It's nothing to worry about." Mom just laughed it off. A light, airy sound that didn't help at all. She said maybe I was watching too many scary movies, that my imagination was just getting the best of me. But the thing was, I had stopped watching horror movies completely. I couldn't even stand the thought of them, couldn't even look at the covers. All I could think about was that vent. Whatever was in there, it felt like it knew when I was listening. It felt like it was waiting for me to be alone, waiting for me to pay attention. Then came Sunday. That was the worst day yet. On Sunday, it called me by my name, my actual name. Aaron. It was just a whisper, like before, soft and breathy. But this time, it was different. It wasn't like a person was stuck in the vent trying to get out. It was like the house itself had learned how to talk. Like the old wood and plaster had suddenly found a voice that knew me. That night, I tried to block it out. I slept with a pillow pulled tight over my head, pressing it hard against my ears. I had my music blaring through my headphones, as loud as it could go. Still, I heard it, clear as anything, cutting through the music and the pillow. "Aaron, down here." It was like the sound went right through the pillow, right through the music, right through my skull. It was inside my head, echoing there. Monday, I finally told my best friend Jonah about it. He was the kind of guy who loved all this stuff, all the spooky things. He listened to paranormal podcasts. He went on ghost tours with his family. He watched all the weird shows about haunted places. He was really into it, so I hoped he'd believe me. Naturally, he wanted to stay over. He wanted to test it out, he said, his eyes bright with excitement. He thought it was cool, like a real-life ghost hunt. I just wanted it to stop. I was so tired of being scared, but I was also desperate for someone to believe me, to not think I was crazy. So that night, we set up my phone. We put it right next to the vent in the living room, making sure it was recording. Then we went upstairs to play video games. We tried to act normal, like it was just a regular sleepover. But I was so nervous, my stomach was doing flips. Jonah was trying to act tough, but I could tell he was nervous too. At midnight, we went back down, creeping quietly. My hands were shaking a little as I picked up the phone. Jonah was trying to laugh it off, but his face was pale. We played back the recording. At first, it was just static. You know, that fuzzy sound, like an old radio. Then, there was a sudden burst of high-pitched whistling. It was loud, sharp, and made us both jump. And then, clear as day, a voice. It whispered, a cold, dry sound. "Let him go, Aaron." Jonah turned white, like really, really pale, whiter than I'd ever seen him. He tried to laugh it off again, a weak, shaky sound. He made some joke about it being a trick, a weird radio signal. But he didn't spend the night. He made up some excuse about his mom needing him home early and left. Fast. He practically ran out the door. I just sat there on the floor, staring at the phone, the sound of the voice still ringing in my ears. My brother. It was talking about my brother. I deleted the audio. I didn't want to hear it again, not ever. I didn't want anyone else to hear it either. It was too real, too close. The nights after that, it got worse, a lot worse. The voice grew clearer, like it was getting closer. It got bolder, more direct, and it wasn't just calling my name anymore. Now it started asking questions. Questions that dug deep into my gut, questions that I didn't want to answer, even to myself. Do you miss him? Did you lie? Will you follow? I knew exactly who it was talking about. My older brother, the one who had just moved out, the one who was gone from my life. What no one at school knew, what even my parents didn't know, not really, was that my brother and I hadn't spoken for 3 whole months before he left for good. We had a huge fight, a really big falling out. It wasn't anything super dramatic, not like a big secret or anything, just stupid teenage stuff that got way out of hand, like a small spark turning into a huge fire. It was about something dumb. He borrowed my new video game and he scratched the disc right across the middle. I got super mad, my face turning red. I yelled at him, my voice loud and angry. He yelled back just as mad as me. We said some really mean things to each other, words that felt sharp and cold, things we couldn't take back, no matter how much we wanted to. I told him I hated him, that I wished he was never my brother. He told me he wished he never had a little brother like me. It was awful, the worst words we'd ever said. We stopped talking after that. We just avoided each other in the house, walking past each other like strangers. It was like we were strangers living under the same roof, in the same rooms. And then, he just moved out. Just like that, one day he was there. The next he was gone. I never got to say sorry, never got to tell him how much I regretted those words. I never got to fix it, never got to tell him I didn't really mean those things, not deep down. And now, the vent seemed to know all about it. It knew my biggest secret, my biggest regret. Tuesday night was the absolute worst. I was trying to sleep on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket. I was too scared to go upstairs to my own bed, too scared to be so far from the front door. I just wanted to be near the front door, just in case I needed to run. I was just dozing off, my eyes heavy when I heard it. The sound of breathing, heavy, slow. It was coming from the vent, right next to my head. It sounded like someone was right there, breathing right into the cold metal. Then a voice. It wasn't a whisper this time. It was like it was right there, speaking directly to me. Clear, cold, and utterly terrifying. I'm not in the ground, Aaron. I'm in the walls. That was it. I didn't even think, didn't even stop to grab my shoes. I just bolted. I ran out of the house, my bare feet hitting the cold pavement outside. I ran across the street to my neighbor's place, the lights in their windows looking so warm and safe. I hammered on their door, my fists pounding hard. They were really surprised to see me, standing there in my pajamas, shaking. They called my parents right away, their voices soft and concerned. I stayed at their house until the sun started to come up, painting the sky with soft colors. I was too scared to go back, too scared to even look at my own house. I just sat there, shaking, wrapped in a blanket, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. When Dad got home from his night shift, he was really angry. He was mad I ran out, mad I woke up the neighbors in the middle of the night. He started yelling a little, his voice sharp. But then I showed him. I pulled him back to the living room, my hand trembling as I pointed. I showed him the gash. It was thin, but deep. It was right along the edge of the vent cover, a jagged line in the metal, like someone had tried to pry it open. From the inside, his face changed. The anger left him, replaced by something else, something I hadn't seen before. He just stared at the gash, his eyes wide. He ran his finger over it, slowly, carefully. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stood there in silence. He just looked at me, then back at the vent. A cold, heavy silence filled the room. That week, Dad called a contractor. A man came to check the whole heating and cooling system, a big truck pulling up to our driveway. He looked everywhere, with his tools and flashlights. He went into the basement, shining his light into every dark corner. He went into the attic, crawling through the dusty insulation. He checked every single vent in the house, tapping on them. He didn't find anything, no animals, no mold, no sign of damage, no tampering, nothing. Just old, rusty ductwork, like any other old house. He said it was probably just the house settling, making strange noises. He told us not to worry, that everything was fine. But they did find something strange. It was in the return vent in the basement, way in the back. It was a small, burnt piece of paper, folded up tight. It was tucked way back in there, hidden from view. The contractor had to use a special tool, a long, thin grabber, to get it out. When he handed it to my dad, we saw it. My name. It was written on it. Over and over again, dozens of times, filling the small paper. Like someone had just kept writing it, over and over, until the paper was full, and then burned it. My parents had no explanation for it, none at all. They just looked at each other, then back at the paper. They looked at me, their faces confused and worried. I had no explanation either, just a cold knot in my stomach, a feeling of dread that wouldn't go away. The contractor just shrugged, saying it was probably just old trash. After that, things got even weirder. The voice wasn't just in the living room vent anymore. Sometimes, I'd hear it from the kitchen, a faint whisper from above the stove, or the hallway, just outside my bedroom door. It was always soft, always a whisper, barely there, but it was everywhere now, following me. It started talking about things only my brother and I would know. Little inside jokes we had when we were kids, silly things no one else would understand, arguments we had, small disagreements that only we remembered, secret hiding spots we'd made up, places only we knew about. It was like it was trying to prove it was him, or that it knew him really well. One night, I was in my room trying to read a book, but my mind kept wandering. The air got cold, really cold, making me shiver. My breath made little puffs in the air. I heard it right outside my bedroom door, a clear whisper that made my blood run cold. Remember the treehouse, Aaron? My brother and I built a treehouse when we were kids, way out in the woods behind our house. It was our secret spot, our own little world. No one else knew about it. We had a special knock, a secret rhythm only we knew. We had a secret code word, a silly word that meant we were safe. It was just ours, a place for us to be together. I jumped out of bed, my heart pounding. I ran to the door, my hand shaking as I reached for the knob. I flung it open, my eyes wide. Nothing was there, just the dark hallway, stretching out in front of me. But I could still feel the cold, like an icy hand on my skin, and I could still hear the faint echo of that whisper hanging in the air. I started leaving the lights on all over the house, every single one. Even when I was sleeping, the lights stayed on. I couldn't stand the darkness anymore. Every shadow felt like it was hiding something, a lurking presence. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump, made my body tense up. My parents noticed I wasn't sleeping. My eyes had dark circles under them, and I was jumpy all the time. I stopped eating much, the food tasting like ash in my mouth. They kept asking what was wrong, their voices soft and worried. But how could I tell them? How could I explain that the house was talking to me, that it knew my secrets? They thought I was just stressed, maybe sad about my brother leaving, missing him a lot. They tried to be nice, to make me feel better. Mom made my favorite foods, things I usually loved. Dad tried to get me to go fishing with him like we used to, but I just couldn't relax, couldn't find any peace. The questions from the vent got more personal, more hurtful. "Why didn't you say sorry?" it whispered one night, the words like a sharp knife. "He waited, Aaron. He waited for you." That one hit hard, really hard. It was true. After our big fight, my brother had tried a few times to talk to me, to make up. He'd leave my favorite candy on my bed, a small peace offering. He'd ask if I wanted to play a game or watch a movie, but I was stubborn. I was still mad. I ignored him, turning away, and then he was gone. And I never got to say sorry, never got to tell him how much I missed him. The voice knew. It knew everything about my guilt. It felt like it was twisting the knife in my gut, making me feel even worse, digging into my deepest regrets. I started spending more time at Jonah's house. I'd just show up after school, sometimes without even calling first. I'd make excuses to my parents, anything to not be home alone. Studying for a test, I'd say, or working on a project. Anything to avoid that quiet, empty house. Jonah was cool about it. He didn't make fun of me anymore, not after hearing the recording. He saw how scared I was, how much I was hurting. He tried to help, really tried. We looked up stuff online, late into the night. Old ghost stories, tales of haunted houses, ways to get rid of bad spirits, spells and rituals. Nothing seemed to fit what was happening to me. One afternoon I was at Jonah's trying to focus on a video game, but my mind was elsewhere. My phone rang. It was my house number. My parents were at work. I knew that for sure. My heart jumped into my throat, a sudden cold fear. I didn't answer, just stared at the screen. Then I got a text message. It was from my brother's old phone number, the one he didn't use anymore. The message just said, "Come home, Aaron. I miss you." I showed it to Jonah, my hand shaking as I held out the phone. His eyes got wide, his face going pale again. "Dude," he whispered, his voice hushed. "That's messed up. Who would do that?" We knew it wasn't my brother. He had a new phone, a new number. He'd told me all about it. It had to be the thing in the vent. It was messing with me. It was trying to trick me, trying to get me to come back to the house. It was trying to get me to fall into its trap. I tried to call the number back, my finger trembling as I pressed the button. It just went straight to voicemail. The voicemail message was my brother's old one, from years ago. His voice sounded so young, so innocent. It made me feel sick to my stomach, a wave of sadness and fear washing over me. That night, I stayed at Jonah's. I couldn't go home, not after that text. I just couldn't bring myself to step inside that house. I told my parents I was sleeping over because we had a big project due. They sounded tired, but they said okay, their voices muffled over the phone. I finally felt a little safe, curled up on Jonah's couch. The next morning, I went home with Dad. He had just finished his shift, his uniform still on. The house felt quiet, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I walked straight to the living room, my eyes fixed on the vent. It looked normal, just metal sitting there innocently on the floor. But then I saw it, on the floor, right in front of the vent, a small wooden toy car. It was red, bright red. My brother and I used to play with it all the time when we were little kids. It was his favorite, he never went anywhere without it. I picked it up. It felt cold, strangely cold to the touch. I knew for sure it had been put there. It wasn't just left there by accident. I hadn't seen that car in years. It was usually in a dusty box in the attic, forgotten. I showed it to Dad, holding it out. He just frowned, his eyebrows coming together. "Where did this come from?" he asked, his voice puzzled. I just shook my head, unable to speak. I couldn't tell him. He wouldn't understand. Not really. He'd think I was really losing it, that I was imagining things. The voice started getting louder. It wasn't just whispers anymore, not anymore. Sometimes, it was like a low hum, a vibrating sound that went through the floor, making the whole room feel like it was shaking. It made my teeth ache, a dull throb in my jaw. One night, I was in the kitchen, getting a glass of water, my hand shaking a little. The lights flickered, once, twice, then stayed on. The hum started, a low buzzing sound that filled the room. It was coming from the vent above the stove, loud and clear. Then, a clear, sharp voice, not a whisper. "He's lonely, Aaron. Just like you." I dropped the glass. It shattered on the floor, making a loud crash, water and glass everywhere, sparkling under the kitchen light. I just stood there, frozen, my body stiff with fear. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest, a frantic drumbeat. My parents heard the crash. They came running, their faces full of alarm. "Aaron, what happened?" Mom asked, looking at the mess on the floor. I just pointed at the vent, my finger trembling. I couldn't speak, couldn't get any words out. Dad looked at the vent. Then he looked at me, his eyes filled with worry. Really worried, more than I'd ever seen him. He didn't say anything about old ducks this time. He just helped me clean up the glass, his movements slow and careful. He didn't ask any more questions, just looked at me with a deep sadness. The next day, Mom called a doctor. She made an appointment for me, saying it was important. She thought I was having a breakdown, that I was just too sad and stressed. She thought I was imagining things, that it wasn't real. She didn't think there was a voice, not really. I went to the doctor. I tried to explain, tried to tell him everything that was happening. He listened, nodding his head. He was nice, his voice calm and gentle. He gave me some pills to help me sleep, small white tablets. He said I was probably just having a hard time, that I needed rest, that my mind was playing tricks. The pills didn't help. I still heard the voice, clear as day, even when I was half asleep. Maybe it was even clearer now that I was more tired, more worn out. It felt like it was always there, a constant presence, watching, waiting. It started talking about the fight again, over and over, like a broken record. "You hurt him, Aaron. You made him leave. It's your fault." It was like a broken record, playing my worst fears, my deepest guilt, on repeat. It never stopped. I started seeing things too. Just out of the corner of my eye, a quick flicker, shadows moving in the hallway, just out of sight. A flicker of something in the dark corners of the rooms. I knew it wasn't real, not really, but it felt real. So real that it made my skin crawl. One evening, I was home alone again. The house was completely silent. Too silent, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the vent, my eyes wide. I felt like I was going crazy, like my mind was breaking. Then I heard a new sound, a scratching. It was coming from inside the walls, right behind the vent, like something was trying to claw its way out, desperate to escape. The scratching got louder, faster, more frantic. It sounded like tiny nails dragging across wood, a chilling, scraping sound. Then, a low growl. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was something else, something awful, something I couldn't name. The vent cover started to rattle. Just a little at first, a soft tremor. Then it shook harder, vibrating against the wall. The screws holding it in place started to groan, a high-pitched whine. I could see the metal bending just a tiny bit, pulling away from the wall. I screamed. I didn't even think, didn't even try to stop it. I just screamed as loud as I could, a raw, terrified sound. I scrambled off the couch, falling to the floor. I ran to the front door, my legs shaking. I fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking too much to get a good grip. I finally got the door open, pushing it wide. I ran out into the night, not stopping this time. I just ran, my bare feet pounding on the sidewalk. I ran down the street, past the houses, past the streetlights. I ran until my lungs burned, until my sides ached. I ran until I couldn't run anymore, until I collapsed. I ended up at a park a few blocks away, dark and empty. I sat on a swing set, trying to catch my breath, gasping for air. Tears were streaming down my face, hot and fast. I couldn't go back. Not ever. I just couldn't. I called Jonah, my fingers fumbling with the phone. He answered right away, his voice sleepy. Aaron, what's wrong? You sound awful. I tried to tell him, tried to explain everything, but I was crying too hard, choking on my words. I just kept saying over and over, "It's real, Jonah. It's real." He came and picked me up, his old car pulling up to the park. He didn't ask too many questions, just looked at me with understanding. He just drove me to his house. I slept on his couch that night, curled up under a blanket. I finally felt safe, truly safe, for the first time in weeks. The fear slowly started to leave me. The next morning, my parents were waiting for me at Jonah's. They looked tired, their faces drawn, and worried, so worried. Mom had tears in her eyes, her voice soft. "Aaron," she said softly, reaching out to touch my arm. "We need to talk." They told me they were worried about me more than anything. They said they didn't know what to do, how to help me. They said they loved me no matter what. And then Dad said it, his voice quiet but firm. "We're going to move, Aaron." I stared at him, my eyes wide. "Move?" I whispered, the word feeling strange on my tongue. "Yes," Mom said, nodding slowly. "Dad got a job offer in Harrisburg. It's a good opportunity for him. And maybe a fresh start would be good for all of us." She looked at me with so much sadness in her eyes, so much understanding. I knew why they were moving. It wasn't just for Dad's job, not really. It was for me. They saw how scared I was, how much the house was affecting me. Even if they didn't believe in the voice, even if they thought I was just stressed, they believed in my fear. And that was enough. We moved 3 months later. It felt like forever, waiting for the day to come, but also like it happened so fast, a blur of boxes and goodbyes. Packing up the house was strange. Every time I went near a vent, I felt a shiver, a cold feeling on my skin. I tried to avoid the living room, tried not to look at that specific vent. The day we left, I looked back at the house from the car window. It looked normal, just a regular house on a quiet street, bathed in the morning sun. But I knew its secret. I knew what was inside its walls. I knew what had been waiting there for me. I haven't been back to that house since. Not once. We live in a new house now in Harrisburg. It's a nice place, smaller, but brighter. It feels safe, like a warm hug. It doesn't have old, creaky vents, no strange noises at night. But sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet and the world is asleep, I turn off my fan. I turn off all the noise, all the distractions, and I just listen, and I swear I can still hear it. That soft, distant whisper, calling my name just like it did that first time. "Aaron." It's just a whisper now, faint, far away, like a ghost of a sound. But it's there, a reminder, a scar on my mind, a whisper from a house that knew my deepest regrets, a whisper that still haunts my quiet nights. I live in Rockport, Maine. It's a fishing town, small and quiet. Here, the fog hangs thick. It's like a wet blanket. It rolls in fast. Sometimes you can't see your hand in front of your face. It smells like salt and cold. The sea is always there, always pulling, always whispering. It never gives back what it takes. Not ever. It just keeps taking. Day after day. Year after year. My grandfather passed away that spring. It was sad. He was old, though. He lived a long life. A good one. He was a quiet man. Always smelled like salt and old wood. Like an old boat. He taught me how to tie knots. How to read the sky. How to tell a storm was coming. Little things. He taught me to respect the ocean. To never turn your back on it. He always said that. His will was simple, mostly. He left me a small bit of money, enough to help, enough to get by, and a box. An old, dusty box. It sat in his attic for years. I never paid it much mind. The box was from his attic. It held old things. Things that smelled like forgotten rooms, like time itself. Dusty memories. Things no one had touched in ages. Old journals were inside. Their covers were worn thin, The pages were yellow. Some were even torn. They looked like they held secrets. Stories from long ago. Some oil lanterns were there too. They were rusty and dark, like they hadn't been used in forever. Their glass was cloudy, smudged with old oil, and one envelope. It was sealed tight, with a piece of old red wax. It felt important, heavy, like it held something big, something dangerous. On the envelope, his writing was shaky, like his hand was tired, like he was old and tired. It said, "Don't sell the light." Big, blocky letters, almost angry. I didn't get it. Sell what light? I just thought it was some old lamp, maybe a special one, a family thing, something he wanted me to keep, a memory, a last wish. But then the lawyer looked at me funny. He had a strange look in his eyes, like he knew something, a knowing look, a sad look. He pulled out a paper, a deed. My stomach dropped a little, a cold feeling, like ice in my gut. It was for a lighthouse. Briar's Light, it said, 2 miles out at sea. My jaw almost hit the floor. I mean, a lighthouse? My grandfather? He was a fisherman, not a lighthouse keeper. It made no sense. He never talked about it, not once, not a single word. It had been empty since 1974. That's almost 50 years, a whole lifetime for some folks. Think of all the storms, all the winters, all the years it sat out there, alone. I didn't even know my grandfather owned it. It was a big surprise, the biggest surprise of my life. It felt like a joke, a strange, old man's joke. My first thought was to sell it. Who needs a rotting old lighthouse? It was just a big, cold rock, out in the ocean, alone, far away from everything, a monument to nothing. It would cost money to keep, money I didn't have, money I didn't want to spend, on a building that was falling apart. Or so I thought. A useless old thing, a burden. But that envelope bothered me. Don't sell the light. It felt like a warning, or a secret, like a puzzle I had to solve. It kept playing in my mind, a constant hum, and the lighthouse itself. I could see it from the shore on clear days, a tiny white speck, just barely there, a distant ghost. It still stood, tall and straight, even after all these years, all those storms that ripped trees out of the ground, that tore houses apart, that swallowed boats whole. It was unlit, yes, dark, but it looked untouched. Half a century of storms had hit our coast, big ones too, but Briar's Light was just there, perfect, like it had been built yesterday, no chipped paint, no broken windows, no cracks in the stone. It was impossible. It was too perfect, too clean. It felt wrong. Deep down, I knew it. That's when the curiosity started. It began to itch. It got under my skin. A nagging feeling, like a splinter. Deep down, why was it so perfect? What was the secret? I had to know. My mind kept going back to it, day and night. It was like a magnet, pulling me in, closer and closer. I started asking around. Old-timers in town, fishermen, nobody knew much. Briar's Light? That old thing, they'd say. Been dark for ages. Best leave it be. Some would get a strange look in their eyes, a faraway look, like they remembered something bad. They'd just shake their heads and walk away. Fast. One old man, Silas, he just coughed and spit. Some things are better left alone, boy. He wouldn't say more, just stared out at the fog, shaking his head. So one cloudy Sunday, I made a plan. A crazy plan. A plan I knew I shouldn't make. But I couldn't stop myself. The curiosity was too strong. I borrowed a small boat, a skiff. It belonged to my friend Tom. He just nodded when I asked, didn't ask why. Maybe he knew something. Or maybe he just thought I was crazy. Tom was a good friend. He just trusted me, even when I was doing something dumb. The boat was old, but it felt sturdy, like it could handle anything. I put some water in a bottle, a few snacks, just in case, a granola bar, an apple, not much, just enough, and my old trusty flashlight. The air felt heavy, the sky was gray, like a bad dream, like the world was holding its breath, waiting. I pushed off from the dock. The water was calm at first, just a gentle rocking. The town got smaller, the houses turned into tiny boxes, the trees looked like little green fuzz. Soon, it was just me and the sea, the big, wide sea, and the quiet, a deep quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears ring, the kind that makes you feel alone, the kind that makes you think too much about everything. The fog started to roll in, not just a little bit. It came in thick, like a wall, a solid white wall. It swallowed the sun. The sky turned white. I couldn't see anything, just white, all around me, like I was inside a cloud, floating. My compass started spinning, around and around. It wouldn't stop, like it was broken, like it was laughing at me. I felt lost, really lost. The boat just drifted. I held the tiller tight. My hands were sweating. My heart beat fast. A drum in my chest. I was scared, really scared. The air grew colder. The smell of salt was stronger now. It filled my nose, my lungs. It tasted like old metal. I heard sounds, not waves, not the boat. Whispers, soft whispers, just at the edge of hearing. They seemed to come from everywhere, from the fog, from the water, from inside my own head. I tried to shake them off. Just the wind, I told myself. Just my mind playing tricks. But they kept coming, like tiny needles in my ears, pricking at me. Then, out of the mist it appeared. Just like that. One moment, nothing. The next, it was there, Briar's light. It looked like a ghost, standing tall, out of the white, like it had always been there. My breath caught in my throat. It didn't look old at all. No green algae on the stone, no broken glass in the lantern room, no rusty streaks running down the sides. It looked new, like someone had just finished building it, right there, last week. It was impossible, but it was true. It was too perfect, too clean. It felt wrong. Deep down, I knew it. I steered the skiff closer. The water around the base was strangely still, no waves crashing, just a soft lapping sound, like a cat drinking milk. It was unsettling, too quiet. I tied the rope to a rusty metal ring, the only rusty thing I could see. It was cold under my fingers. The metal felt ancient, like it had seen too much. The stone stairs were slick with sea spray. Each step I took echoed. Few taps. It sounded like someone was walking behind me, right on my heels. My stomach twisted. I stopped, looked back. Nothing. Just the gray fog. My heart beat fast. So fast. It was just the echo, I told myself. Just the sea. Just the wind. But I didn't believe it. I felt eyes on me. Cold eyes. Watching. Waiting. From somewhere in the fog. I pushed open the heavy iron door. It groaned. A long, sad sound, like someone crying. Or maybe a giant sigh. A deep, tired sigh. The air inside was cold. It smelled like old oil and salt, the smell of the sea. But there was another smell too. Something older, something deep, like wet, rotting wood. Or maybe something else. Something like old blood. It made my stomach twist. Really twist. It was a smell that made my hair stand on end. A smell that promised bad things. The central stairwell was dark, pitch black. It spiraled up and up. I couldn't see the top. It felt like it went on forever. Into the blackness. A never-ending climb. I pulled out my flashlight. Click. The beam cut through the dark. A thin line of light. It danced on the dusty walls, showing nothing, just stone and shadows. That's when it started. The sound. Not footsteps this time. It was different. A soft sound. Few taps. Rhythmic. Like fingers tapping on glass or on stone. Slow. Steady. It came from above me. Somewhere high up. I froze. My hand gripped the flashlight tight. My knuckles were white. My whole body felt stiff. My breath hitched. "Rats," I whispered. My voice sounded small. Too small. It didn't feel like rats. Rats scurried. This was slow, steady, like someone was waiting, just waiting. For me. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. I had to keep going. I told myself it was just the wind or the old building settling, but I didn't believe it, not for a second. Fear was a cold hand on my neck, pushing me forward, or maybe pulling me in. I climbed, 1 step, 2 steps, up and up. The taps kept going, always above me, always just out of sight, like a game, a horrible game, a game I didn't want to play. The first floor was storage, dark and dusty. Rotten wooden crates were stacked against the walls. They looked like coffins, big dark boxes. Old broken lamps lay on the floor. Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust, like snow, but it wasn't snow. It felt like time had stopped here, like no one had touched these things in years, decades, but the taps kept me moving. I had to see what was above. I had to know. The second floor was the keeper's quarters. My breath hitched. Everything was preserved, like someone had just stepped out for a moment, just gone for coffee, or a quick walk. A half-melted candle sat on a small table. Its wax was hard and cold, but not dusty. A single worn boot lay near the bed, as if someone had just kicked it off. Left it there. A teacup sat on a desk, empty, the saucer next to it. It was so normal, so every day, but it made my skin crawl. No dust here, none at all, not a single speck. It was like someone was still living here, right now, and there, on the desk, was a journal, a thick leather-bound book, open. I reached for it. My hand shook a little. My heart hammered against my ribs. It felt like a trap. I opened it further. The first entry was dated 1968. She doesn't like silence. My eyes widened. What did that mean? Who was she? A person? A thing? I didn't know. I flipped the page. The writing got more frantic, more hurried. The entries grew stranger and more terrifying. Each word was like a cold drop of water, falling on my skin. The light doesn't need fuel anymore. It just turns on when she's angry. I read that line twice. The light, it turned on by itself. When she was angry, that was impossible. Then another one. My blood ran cold. I heard my name last night from the sea, not the waves, the water itself. The water itself, calling his name, a voice from the deep. It made my skin prickle, like tiny insects crawling all over me. The entries went on, each one worse than the last. The keeper, a man named Thomas, wrote about the fog, how it seemed to watch him, how it pressed in on the lighthouse, not just outside, but inside too. He wrote about the cold, a cold that bit deep into his bones. The cold is her breath, he wrote. She breathes it into the stone, into my room. He wrote about the dreams, how they started small, just bad feelings. Then they grew, full of dark water and whispers, always whispers. She feeds on them, he scrawled. My dreams are not my own. They are her meals. His handwriting got messier. The lines slanted, like he was falling as he wrote. The light, it's a trap. It calls them, and she waits. He didn't say who them was, but I had a bad feeling. A very bad feeling. Then, a few pages later, a new entry. She wants more. She's always hungry. He wrote about seeing shapes in the fog, not ships, not birds, just shapes, moving. And the tapping. He heard it too, always above him, always just out of sight. He called it her heartbeat, the slow, steady taps, the last entry. Dated a week before the lighthouse was shut down. The words were big and messy, like he was shaking as he wrote, like he was scared out of his mind. If anyone finds this, don't sleep here. She likes dreams. That's how she eats. My heart hammered in my chest. She eats dreams. What kind of thing eats dreams? It made no sense, but it felt true. A loud clang, metal on metal. It came from upstairs, the lantern room. I nearly dropped the journal. My flashlight flickered, once, twice, then held steady, just barely. I should have left right then. I know that now. My gut screamed at me, run, get out. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something held me there, like an invisible rope. It was the journal, the words, the mystery, the idea of her. I had to see. I had to know. What was at the top? What was waiting for me? What was this thing? I climbed again. Each step felt heavy, like my legs were made of lead. The taps had stopped, but the silence now felt worse. It felt like waiting, like something was holding its breath. Just for me, up to the final level, the lantern room. I pushed open the last door. It swung open easily, no creak, no groan, just a soft whoosh of air, like a sigh or a whisper. It was empty, completely, no big light bulb, no gears, no machinery, nothing that should make a lighthouse work, just the curved glass walls, and the view, endless fog, white and thick, stretching out forever, no horizon, just white, like staring into nothing, a blank page, and then I saw her, in the reflection, in the glass, behind me. My breath hitched, I spun around, fast, nothing, just the empty room, just the glass, but her shape stayed there, in the reflection, clear as day, a woman, a black dress, long and flowing, her hair was wet, dripping, it hung in front of her face, like dark seaweed, and she had no eyes, just empty spaces where eyes should be, dark holes. Her mouth, it was stretched open, wider than it should have been, like it had forgotten how to stop screaming, a silent, terrible scream. I backed away. One step, then another. My back hit the cold glass. I couldn't breathe. She was there, but not there, a ghost, a shadow, but real, so real. Then the glass started to fog. From the inside, every single panel. The fog wasn't outside, it was coming from inside the glass, a thick, white mist, like a breath, her shape smeared. It slid across the walls like black oil underwater, moving, twisting, getting closer. The empty spaces where her eyes should be seemed to grow, to pull me in. Then the lantern room began to glow, a soft white light. It got brighter and brighter, even though there was no lantern, no bulb, no power, just the light, growing. It pulsed, like a heart beating, a slow, strong beat. Then the voice came, not out loud, not with sound, it was inside my head, like she was speaking right into my thoughts, right into my brain, filling it. He promised I'd stay lit. The words echoed in my mind. He, my grandfather, the old keeper. It didn't matter. All that mattered was running, getting away. Now I ran. I didn't even try to grab the journal. I just turned and ran down the spiral stairs. I don't remember the steps, only that they went on forever and ever. The tower felt taller, much taller, like it had grown while I was inside. Each step was a blur. My feet pounded on the stone, my lungs burned, my legs screamed. I burst out the iron door, hit the deck hard, my hands fumbled with the rope, untied the skiff, jumped in, grabbed the oars. I rowed like a madman, like my life depended on it. It did. My arms burned, my back ached. I pulled with all my might. But the boat wouldn't move. It just stayed there, right by the lighthouse. I wasn't going anywhere, no matter how hard I pulled. The water beneath me started to pull back, not in waves, not like the tide going out. It was like a giant breath, being inhaled. The sea was sucking in, getting lower and lower. The boat felt stuck, trapped. I looked back at the lighthouse. It was gone, just fog, thick and white. Where the lighthouse had been, no rocks, no stone structure, nothing, not even the sound of the waves, just silence, a deep, heavy silence. That felt wrong. It felt like the world had swallowed it, swallowed everything. Then from the fog, a dim red light blinked, once, then again, like a slow heartbeat, no rhythm, no pattern, just watching. It was watching me. I felt it, a cold, knowing stare. I couldn't move. My arms were dead. My eyes were fixed on that red light. It was the only thing in the world, the only thing I could see. Everything went dark. I passed out. The Coast Guard found me, drifting near Camden Bay. My skiff was upside down. I was floating next to it. My hands were wrapped around nothing, like I was still rowing, still trying to get away. They pulled me into their boat. I was cold, shaking. I tried to tell them about the lighthouse, about her, about the red light, about the journal. They looked at me with pity. They said there's no lighthouse registered on that reef. Never has been. Not Briar's light. Not any light. Just open water and a few dangerous rocks. They said I must have hit my head or been out in the sun too long. They said I was confused, but I wasn't. I knew what I saw, every terrible bit of it, every cold, dark moment. They took me to the hospital, checked me over, said I was fine, just tired, but I wasn't fine. Not inside, not in my head. My mind felt fuzzy, like it was full of fog. I went back to my apartment in Rockport. It felt different now. The fog outside my window. It felt like it was hiding something, something terrible, something that was waiting. I've seen it 4 times since, the red blink, from my apartment window, always in a storm, always before I fall asleep, always when the fog is thickest. The first time, I thought it was just a ship, or a buoy, something normal, but it was too high and too steady, and it was always in the same spot, where Briar's light should be. The second time I saw it, I felt a chill. It was late. The wind howled outside. I was tired, so tired. I looked out, and there it was, red, blinking, a slow, steady pulse. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just my mind playing tricks. But my heart knew. It was her, watching, waiting, for me to give up. The third time, I was scared to look. I pulled the curtains tight, but I felt it, the red light, burning through the fabric, burning into my mind. I couldn't sleep that night. I just lay there, listening to the storm, feeling her presence, knowing she was out there, closer than ever. The fourth time was just last week. The fog was so thick, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I was making a cup of tea. My hands were shaking a little. The cup rattled in the saucer. I glanced out the window, and there it was, a faint red glow, pulsing, slow, steady. It was almost like a heartbeat, her heartbeat, and it was beating with mine. The light is still on, even when I can't see it. I feel it, in the quiet moments, in the dark, when I'm alone. She still dreams, and I think I might be part of her now, a part of her dream. Or her nightmare, a small piece of her endless hunger. I don't sleep well anymore. My dreams are not my own. They are filled with fog, and the smell of salt and old blood, and a dim red light, always red, always pulsing. Sometimes I hear my name, not from the waves, but from the water itself. A whisper, a cold, soft whisper. It calls to me. It pulls me closer. I feel her in my mind, a presence, always there, always watching, always waiting, for me to sleep, for me to dream, for me to give in. I know she's hungry, and I know what she eats, my dreams, my peace, my sanity. She takes them piece by piece, every night, every single night. I'm trapped, not in the lighthouse, but in her endless dream, in her endless hunger, and the red light keeps blinking, in the storm, in the fog, always before I fall asleep, always. It's a promise, a terrible promise, that she will never let me go. I tried to tell Tom about it, my friend, the one who lent me the skiff. He listened, he really did. But his eyes, they looked sad, like he felt bad for me. "You've been through a lot, man," he said. His voice was soft, kind. "Maybe you just need some rest, a long rest." He didn't believe me, not really. I saw it in his eyes. He thought I was losing my mind, and maybe I was. The days started to blur. I'd wake up tired, more tired than when I went to bed. My apartment felt cold, even with the heat on, a deep, biting cold, the smell of salt and old blood. It was everywhere now, in my clothes, in my food. It clung to me, like a second skin. I stopped going to work. How could I? My hands shook too much. My mind drifted. I couldn't focus. All I could think about was the fog and the red light and her. My dreams became worse, much worse. They weren't just about fog anymore. They were about the sea, dark, churning water, and I was in it, drowning, but I couldn't drown. I just kept sinking, deeper and deeper, and she was there, in the water, her black dress flowing around her, her hair like snakes, her mouth stretched open, not screaming, but laughing, a silent, terrible laugh. She would reach for me, her hands long and pale, her fingers like bones, and she would pull me closer, into the dark, into the cold. I would wake up screaming, my throat raw, my sheets soaked with sweat, but the screams never made a sound, just inside my head. I tried to stay awake, for days. I drank coffee, lots of it. I walked around my apartment. I stared out the window, anything to keep my eyes open. But the tiredness, it was a heavy blanket. It pulled me down. My eyelids felt like lead. My body ached. Every muscle screamed for rest. And that's when the red light would appear, a faint glow in the thick fog. Always there, always waiting. A silent invitation to sleep, to dream, to be eaten. One night, I was sitting by the window. It was late. The fog was so thick, I could barely see the streetlights, just blurry halos. Then it pulsed. The red light, stronger than before, closer. It felt like it was right outside my window, right there. And the whispers came. Not just my name, other words, words I couldn't quite make out. They were like a song, a lullaby, a terrible, dark lullaby. My head started to ache, a sharp pain behind my eyes. My vision blurred. I felt myself swaying, falling. I tried to fight it. I really did. I clawed at my eyes. I bit my tongue. Anything to stay awake, anything to break free. But it was no use. The red light filled my vision. It was all I could see, and the whispers grew louder, clearer. "Come home," they said. "Come home to the light." My grandfather. I thought of him. He knew. He must have known. Why didn't he tell me? Why did he leave me the lighthouse? Was it a curse, a test, or was he trying to save me? I remembered his old journals, the ones in the box. I hadn't read them all, not the ones that weren't about the lighthouse. I stumbled to the box. My legs felt weak, like jelly. I pulled out a journal, one of the older ones, from before 1968. His handwriting was neat then, strong, not shaky. He wrote about the sea, about fishing, about my grandmother. And then a few pages in, a strange entry, dated years before the lighthouse was shut down. He wrote about a storm, the worst he'd ever seen, a monster storm. His boat was tossed, like a toy. He thought he was going to die. And then, out of the darkness, a light. Not the lighthouse. It was dark then, a different light, a soft, white glow from the water. It pulled him in, to the reef, to Briar's light. He wrote about a woman, standing on the rocks, in the storm. Her hair was wet. Her dress was black. She had no eyes. He said she saved him, pulled him from the water, brought him to the lighthouse. And then she spoke, not with her mouth, but in his mind. "You will keep my light," she said. "You will keep it lit." He wrote about how he tried to leave, but he couldn't. The boat wouldn't move, just like mine. It was stuck, trapped. He became the keeper, not of the lighthouse, but of her light. He had to keep it burning, even when there was no fuel, no power, just her anger, her hunger. He wrote about the dreams, how she fed on them, how she grew stronger, how she whispered to him, about the sea, about the lost ones. And then, one day, he found Thomas, the other keeper, the one who wrote the journal I found. Thomas had tried to leave. He had tried to turn off the light. She didn't like that. She took him, bit by bit, dream by dream. My grandfather wrote about how he had to keep her happy, keep her fed, keep the light burning, so she wouldn't take him. And then, the last entry in that old journal, from the day he left the lighthouse. He wrote about a bargain, a terrible bargain. He promised her a new keeper, someone to take his place, someone to keep her lit, someone to feed her. My blood ran cold. My grandfather, he didn't save me. He sent me here. He sacrificed me. To her. The red light pulsed harder, faster. It filled my apartment. The whispers were a roar now, inside my head. "He kept his promise," the voice said, "and now you are mine." I dropped the journal. It hit the floor with a thud. The pages splayed open. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. They were heavy, like stone. My arms felt numb. My chest was tight. I couldn't breathe. The fog outside pressed against the glass, white and thick, and then a shape in the fog, her shape, moving closer, her black dress, her wet hair, her empty eyes, her stretched mouth. She was outside, but also inside, in my mind, in my room. The red light was blinding now. It burned. It stung my eyes. I squeezed them shut, but I could still see it, behind my eyelids, pulsing, burning. The whispers were all around me, 1,000 voices, all hers. They told me about the deep, about the cold, about the endless dark. They told me about the dreams she ate, how sweet they tasted, how they made her strong. I felt her presence, closer than ever, right in front of me. A cold breath on my face, the smell of salt and old blood. I opened my eyes. She was there, standing over me. Her face was close, so close. I could almost touch her. Her empty eyes stared into mine, and I saw it, not darkness, but a swirling vortex of fog and red light and lost dreams, my dreams, all of them. She reached out. Her hand was cold, so cold. It touched my forehead. A shock went through me, like ice. Then fire. I felt something leave me, something important, something vital. My memories, my hopes, my fears, all of them. They were being pulled out, like threads, into her. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was frozen. My body was frozen. Only my mind still worked, barely. I saw flashes of my life, my childhood, my grandfather, Tom, all of it, rushing away into the swirling red light. And then I felt a deep peace, a terrible, cold peace. The fear was gone. The struggle was over. I was empty, a shell. The red light pulsed one last time, then it faded. The fog outside my window seemed to thin, just a little. I stood there, motionless, staring out, into the gray. I don't sleep anymore. I don't dream. I just watch the fog, and wait. Sometimes I see it, the faint red blink in the distance. Always in a storm, always when the fog is thickest, it's her heartbeat. And now it's mine too. I am the light, and I will never die. My name's Patrick Carver. It's a pretty normal name, I guess. I'm a guy who studies weather and ice, a climatologist they call it. I was part of a small team, just a few of us. We were way out in the middle of nowhere. We spent the whole winter of 2024 up in the Alaskan mountains. These mountains were north of a big area called the Wrangell Mountains. It was cold, really cold, all the time. The kind of cold that bites. It gets right into your bones. It makes your nose hairs freeze up. But it was also beautiful in a wild way. My job was pretty simple, or at least it seemed simple back then. I had to watch how the big ice sheets were moving. The glaciers, you know? These huge rivers of ice. They move so slow you can't see it, but they move and they shape the land. It's amazing, really. I also had to write down how the ice was melting, because the ground, the permafrost, was getting warmer. It sounds boring, maybe, but I loved it. Being out there, just me and the ice, it felt right. It felt like I was doing something important, like I was part of something bigger than myself. I grew up in a small town, always loved being outside. So this job, it was perfect for me. No crowds, no noise, just the vast, white quiet. We lived in a small cabin. It was sturdy, built to last, made of thick logs and strong wood. It kept the wind out, but it felt tiny against all that huge, white land. The mountains stretched forever. They looked like giant sleeping beasts, covered in white fur. Every day was about checking our gear, looking at screens. We had computers, of course, to track all the data. Sometimes, if the weather wasn't too bad, we'd fly our drones, little buzzing things. They'd go out over the ice, sending back pictures. The silence out there was so big, it almost felt like a sound itself. A deep, quiet hum, like the whole world was holding its breath. It was peaceful, mostly, just the wind and the ice, and the distant crackle of the aurora at night, green and purple lights dancing in the sky. I'd often stand outside, just watching the stars. They seemed so much brighter out there, like tiny holes punched in a black blanket. Sometimes I'd think about home, about my family, but mostly I was just focused on the work and the quiet. But then, about 6 weeks into our trip, things changed. The quiet got broken, not by a sound, but by a feeling. I found something. And this something, it was nowhere on any of our maps. Not on the new ones. Not on the old ones. Not anywhere. It just wasn't supposed to be there at all. It was like it popped out of thin air, like it had been hidden, and now it wasn't. It was February 3rd. I remember the date clearly. It was a Tuesday. The sky was a pale gray, like a sheet of old paper, or a faded photograph. The sun was low, even at midday. It cast long, soft shadows over the snow. The air was crisp, and very, very cold. I was flying my drone, this little buzzing thing. It hummed through the air, making a tiny sound in the huge silence. It was near a big, icy path. This path was about 6 miles from our cabin, a good distance. It was part of my usual route. I was looking for cracks in the ice, signs of new melt, the kind of stuff that tells us about climate change. That was my job, after all. I was focused on the screen, watching the icy landscape scroll by, looking for anything unusual, any change. Then I saw it. On the drone's screen, a dark shape. It was rectangular, kind of blocky, not natural. Half of it was buried deep in the snow, right near the top of a ridge. It looked like a big, dark tooth sticking out of the white. My first thought was, oh, it's just some old junk, maybe an old piece of equipment from a mine, or something left behind by a hunter. People leave things behind in Alaska, all the time. Old traps, broken snowmobiles. It happens. I almost just flew the drone away. I really did. It was far, and the climb looked tough, but I had plenty of time that day. And you know how it is with curiosity. It just grabs you. It pulls at you. It whispers in your ear. It wins. Every single time. So, I decided to go check it out. I landed the drone. It sat there, quiet, in the snow. And I started to climb. I packed my bag, grabbed my ice axe, put on my biggest jacket, and started walking. The snow was deep, really deep, up to my knees in some spots, and the wind was biting. It felt like tiny needles on my skin. Every step was hard work. My boots crunched in the fresh powder, a satisfying sound, but a tiring one. The air bit at my nose and ears. It stung. My eyelashes froze together, but I kept going, pulling myself up the icy slope. My breath came out in big white clouds, like little ghosts or puffs of smoke, disappearing into the vastness. I kept my eyes on the ridge, that dark shape. It seemed to get bigger and stranger the closer I got. Finally, I got to the top. My legs ached. My lungs burned. I was breathing hard. My whole body felt tired. And there it was. It wasn't just junk. It was a building, a real structure. Not some old, broken-down shed, but a strange one. It was made of metal and concrete, super strong, built to last, like a fortress. It looked wide enough for maybe 2 people to live in, but it was shaped weird, all sharp angles, like a jagged rock. It was sunk deep into the ice, like it had been there forever, like the mountain had swallowed it, and then spit it back out. The metal was dark, almost black, covered in rust in some spots. It looked very, very old. One door, a hatch, was made of thick, rusted metal. It sat crooked against a wall of frozen dirt and ice. Half of it was still stuck solid in the permafrost, like it was holding on, not wanting to let go. It looked like it had been forced open a long, long time ago, then frozen again, like someone had tried to get in, or out, in a hurry. I leaned closer. My face was numb from the cold. I could feel the biting wind on my cheeks. There were words painted on the metal. They were faded, almost gone, but I could still make them out. They were in Russian letters, the kind you see in old spy movies. Cyrillic, they call it. My heart started to beat a little faster, a nervous flutter. A cold feeling started in my stomach. This wasn't just old junk. This was something else entirely, something hidden. I thought, maybe it's an old bunker from the Cold War. You know, when America and Russia were always watching each other, always ready for a fight. They built secret stuff back then, all over the place. But that didn't make sense. We had maps, lots of them. We had maps from the US government, from the Russian government, even secret ones that were unsealed later. There was no record of anything like this. Not in this part of Alaska. Nothing. Not a single mention. It was like it didn't exist, like it was never built. But it was right there, in front of me, solid, real. That night, back in the cabin, I looked it up. I checked every map, every database. I stayed up late. We had access to old US and Russian spy records, stuff that was secret for years, files that were locked away, but still nothing, not a single mention of a weather station, a bunker, or anything like it in that area. It was like a ghost building, a place that shouldn't be there, a place that the world had forgotten or tried to forget. I didn't tell the other guys on the team, not a word. I kept it to myself. It felt too strange to share. I didn't want them to think I was losing my mind, chasing ghosts instead of doing my job. My job was glaciers, not old, weird buildings, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. It just sat there in my mind, a dark, heavy secret, like a stone in my gut. It bothered me. It poked at me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that dark shape, that rusted hatch, those strange letters. It was like a puzzle, and I had to solve it. I had to know what it was, and why it was there. 3 days later, the ground shook. It was an ice quake, a big one. The whole cabin rattled. Our mugs clattered on the table. The floor shook beneath my feet. The walls groaned. It felt like the whole mountain was waking up and stretching. You could hear the ice cracking and groaning out in the distance. It was a powerful sound, like the world was tearing itself apart. A deep, rumbling roar. It lasted for a long time, maybe a minute, but it felt like forever. When it stopped, the silence that followed was even bigger. I knew what I had to do. The quake felt like a sign, like the mountain was telling me something, or showing me something. It felt like the earth itself was pointing me back to that strange building, like it wanted me to go inside. I went back to the ridge. The shaking had done something. More of the snow had fallen away from the structure. It was clearer now. The ice around the hatch had cracked. Big chunks had broken off. It looked like a giant had taken a bite out of the snow. Now the hatch was almost completely clear, and I could see it clearly. The heavy metal door was no longer frozen shut. It was unlocked. It was just sitting there, waiting. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum. It beat so hard I could feel it in my ears. This was my chance, my one chance, to find out what was inside, to solve the mystery. I grabbed my radio. "Hey guys," I said, trying to sound normal. My voice felt a little shaky. "Just checking in. Got a weird reading here. Looks like a sudden cold front moving in. Gonna need a couple hours to get some more data." It was a lie, of course, a big one. My stomach twisted with the lie, but I had to do it. They bought it. They always did. I was good at my job. They trusted me. I had 2 hours. 2 hours to see what was inside. 2 hours before they'd check on me. I took a deep breath, the cold air burning my lungs. It felt like fire. Then slowly, I pulled on the rusted handle. It was heavy, cold. My fingers almost stuck to it. The hatch creaked open, a long, drawn-out groan. It sounded like a dying animal or an old, old man. It echoed in the vast silence, a sound that felt ancient and wrong. The opening was dark, a black hole. I pulled out my flashlight. Its beam cut through the gloom. The cold inside was different. It wasn't the fresh, biting cold of the Alaskan air. That cold felt clean, crisp, alive. This cold felt ancient, dead. It was like stepping into a giant freezer, one that had been turned off for decades. But somehow the cold had just stayed. It sank into my bones, a deeper, more chilling kind of cold. It felt heavy, like a blanket of ice. And yet there was light, a flickering, yellowish light. It was dim, like old gas lanterns, barely pushing back the darkness. For a second, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. Maybe it was just my brain, trying to make sense of the gloom. But no, hanging from the low ceiling was a light fixture. It was old, dusty, but it was working. It was really working. It pulsed, a weak, sickly yellow glow. It was connected to a bunch of wires. They led to what looked like a really old battery system. It was still pulsing, weakly, but it was alive. How could it be? After all this time, 60 years at least, the walls were covered in peeling green paint. It was flaking off in big chunks, like old skin or dried moss. All around there were instruments, dials and gauges. They were covered in frost, like they'd been dipped in sugar. Ice crystals covered everything, sparkling faintly in the dim light, like tiny diamonds or frozen tears. An old desk sat crooked against one wall. It looked like it had been thrown there or pushed. It was covered in a fine layer of dust and ice, like a forgotten memory, a moment frozen in time. Above the desk, there was a big switchboard panel. It was humming, a low, steady sound, almost too quiet to hear. It was like a heartbeat, a slow, tired thrum. Right next to it, there was a reel-to-reel tape machine. It was old, the kind my grandpa used to talk about, big and clunky, made of metal and heavy plastic, and a tape was loaded on it. The spool had stopped right in the middle of recording, like someone had just walked away, in a hurry, like they'd been called away suddenly, or had to leave, fast. My hand shook a little as I reached for it. My fingers felt clumsy, numb with cold. I pushed the rewind button. The machine made a low, chattering noise, like an old man clearing his throat or a rusty gear turning. Then it clicked, and I heard it. A voice, a man's voice, and it was speaking English. My heart jumped. I hadn't expected that. "Day 41, the voice said. It sounded tired, scared, like he hadn't slept in days, or had seen something terrible. "We've sealed the entry." He paused, a shaky breath. "Anton says it followed us down from the ridge. But it's not one of them. It's too old, too wrong." His voice cracked then, like he was about to cry. "We shouldn't have brought it inside," he whispered. The words hung in the air, heavy, cold, like the air itself. "We tried the heat test," he continued, his voice barely a whisper now. It sounded like he was talking to himself. "Didn't work. It won't thaw. It won't thaw." He repeated it, like he couldn't believe it, like it was impossible. "I think it's alive." The rest of the tape dissolved into a hiss of static, just a long, empty sound, like a dying breath, like the last gasp of someone trapped. There was no date on the tape, nothing to tell me when this happened, but the machine, the instruments, they had to be from the 1960s. That was over 60 years ago. My chest felt tight, like a cold hand was squeezing my heart. A throb of dread started deep inside me. It wasn't just the cold anymore. It was something else, something much worse. It felt like something was watching me from deeper in the dark corridor, just beyond the light. My skin crawled. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. And then, I did it. The dumbest thing any character in a horror movie ever does. I went further inside. I couldn't help myself. My feet just moved, like I was being pulled, like something wanted me to see. The corridor was narrow, dark. My flashlight beam danced ahead, showing only a small circle of light. The air grew even colder. My breath plumed out in thick clouds, like I was breathing smoke, or ghosts. I could hear my own heart beating, loud in my ears, a frantic drum. Every beat echoed in the silence. After a few steps, I saw another door. It was heavy, made of thick metal, just like the hatch I came through. It was sealed, tight, like a tomb, no handle, just a big, thick locking mechanism on it. It was frozen solid, covered in a thick layer of ice. It looked like it hadn't been opened in ages, maybe never. I reached out, my fingers numb, and touched the handle. It was covered in ice. I tried to turn it, just to see, and it turned. It just gave way. With a soft click, my eyes went wide. How could it be unlocked? After all this time? After all that ice? It made no sense. I pushed it open slowly. The hinges groaned, a sound like a dying animal, or a tortured soul. It was a long, drawn-out shriek. Inside was another room. This one was even colder. The air bit at my skin. It felt like tiny knives. At the center, there was a glass chamber, or what was left of one. Most of the thick glass had shattered, lying in sharp pieces on the icy floor, like broken teeth, or shards of a dark mirror. Ice had taken over the corners of the room, growing in strange, sharp patterns, like frozen claws, or twisted skeletal hands reaching out. The walls were covered in a thick layer of white frost, and in the middle of the broken chamber, I saw it, a black, shriveled mass. It was no bigger than a basketball, all dried up and twisted, like something that had been alive, but was now not. It sat on the floor. It looked like a mummified heart, or a burnt, blackened fruit. It was surrounded by a dark, rust-colored stain that spread across the white tiles, like a spilled drink, or a pool of old, dried blood. It looked like something had bled there, a long, long time ago, and the stain had stayed. The lights in the room flickered then. The faint yellow glow danced around the room, making shadows jump and twist, like they were alive, like they were dancing, or trying to hide. And then I heard it, a sound I will never, ever forget. It wasn't footsteps, it wasn't breathing, it wasn't even a sound of something moving. It was a voice, barely there, a whisper, like wind through dry leaves, or a ghost sighing. But it wasn't coming from the tape machine, it was coming from the room itself, from everywhere, all around me. "Let me back," it whispered. The words were thin, cold. They seemed to come from inside my head. I froze, my whole body locked up. I couldn't move. My muscles felt like ice. The air in the room dropped. I swear it got at least 10 degrees colder in that instant. The cold was a physical thing. It pressed down on me. My breath turned to sharp needles in my lungs. It hurt to breathe. Every gasp was pain. And then I saw it. Something crawled across the glass wall. A reflection. But it wasn't mine. It was dark, blurry. A shape, like a person. But not quite. Someone was standing right behind me. I could see their shape, dark and blurry, in the broken glass. My blood ran cold, like ice water in my veins. I spun around fast, my heart pounding, a frantic drum inside my chest. But there was no one there. Just the empty, icy room, the broken glass, the shriveled mass, the cold, and the silence. The silence that felt heavier now, more watchful. Then I looked back at the door I had entered through. The heavy metal door. It was closed now, and I hadn't touched it. It had just swung shut, silent as a ghost. My heart leaped into my throat. Panic hit me like a punch. A sudden sharp blow. My mind screamed. I ran to the door, my feet slipping on the icy floor. I stumbled, but I kept going. I grabbed the handle, yanked it open with all my strength. My muscles screamed and bolted through the corridor. I didn't look back. I just ran, my lungs burning, my mind screaming. Every step was a desperate prayer. As I left the station, every light behind me went out. One by one they popped off, in a line, like a dying heartbeat, until it was all dark. The whole place was swallowed by shadow. I scrambled out of the hatch, pulling myself back into the biting wind and snow. The cold outside felt like a warm blanket, compared to the cold inside. The snow sliced my face like tiny razors, but I didn't care. I just wanted to be away from that place, away from the cold, away from the whispers, away from that dark, shriveled thing. I pulled myself all the way out. My hands were raw. My body ached. And then, with a loud, sickening clang, the hatch door slammed shut behind me, all on its own. The sound echoed in the vast, empty landscape. It was a sound of finality, like a tomb sealing itself. The battery power? Gone. The light inside? Gone. Everything was dark. The structure was just a silent, cold tomb again, buried in the snow, hidden. I didn't look back. I just ran, stumbling through the snow, my legs aching, my chest burning. I ran until I couldn't see it anymore, until the ridge was just a distant hump, until I was back at the cabin. I burst through the door, panting. My team looked at me. "Everything okay, Pat?" one of them asked. "Yeah," I gasped. "Just colder than I thought. Got some good data." Another lie. But they bought it. I spent the rest of the night shaking, even under my thick blankets. The cold from that station clung to me. It was inside my clothes, inside my skin. I could still hear that whisper. "Let me back." The next morning, I told them I was sick. A bad flu. I said I needed to go home. A family emergency. They understood. They were good guys. They helped me pack. I was out of there within a day. I needed to be far from that place, far from the cold, far from the whispers. But it wasn't enough. I flew back to my apartment in the city. A big city, full of noise, full of people. I thought I'd be safe there. I thought the sounds of traffic would drown out the whispers. I thought the warmth of my apartment would melt the cold. But since that day, something's been wrong. Not with the world. Not with the glaciers. With me. It started small. Little things. So small I almost didn't notice them. Then they got bigger. And weirder. Like a bad dream that wouldn't end. A dream that followed me home. And never left. I hear whispers now. Even when I'm deep in the city. Far from the mountains. Far from the wind. I'll be walking down a busy street. Cars honking. People talking. And I'll hear it. A faint, cold whisper. Like the wind through the cracks in that station. It's always just out of reach. Just a sound. Not words. But I know it's there. It's always there. Just at the edge of my hearing. Waiting. Sometimes it sounds like a sigh. Other times like a low hum. Like the switchboard in that dark room. It makes the hairs on my arms stand up. Even when I'm in a crowded place. I feel alone. My apartment lights flicker all the time. Not just once in a while. All the time. They dim and brighten. Like something is messing with the power. Like it's playing a game. A cruel game. Sometimes they just go out completely, leaving me in the dark. A sudden black silence. And when they come back on, I feel like I'm not alone in the room. I feel a cold presence. Like someone is standing right behind me. Watching. Waiting. I spin around. Fast. My heart pounding. But there's never anyone there. Just the empty room. And the flickering lights. I started checking the wiring. Called the landlord. He said everything was fine. No issues. But the flickering continued. It's like the darkness itself is alive. And it's trying to get closer. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. Shivering. Even though my heat is on high. I'm covered in frost. Like I've been sleeping outside in the snow. My blankets are damp with it. My breath comes out in big white clouds. Even inside my warm apartment. It's like the cold from that station followed me home. It's inside me now. A deep, chilling cold. It never leaves. It's always there, right inside my bones. I try to warm up. Hot showers, extra blankets. But nothing works. The cold is a part of me now. It's a constant reminder of what I found, of what I unleashed, of what followed me. And the fridge magnets. This is the one that really gets me. I have these alphabet magnets on my fridge, just normal letters. My niece gave them to me. She loves to spell out my name, or silly words. But sometimes when I wake up, they're rearranged. They spell out words in Russian letters. I never learned Russian. Never. I failed foreign language in high school. I wouldn't know those letters. I had to look them up on my phone. I typed in the strange symbols. One by one, my hands shaking. The first time it happened, it spelled out in Russian. It's alive. I typed it into the translator. My blood ran cold, just like the voice on the tape. The second time, a week later, "We warned you." In Russian, I typed it in. Every time I see them, a cold dread washes over me. Who warned me? And about what? The thing in the station, the cold, the whispers, all of it. It was like a message, a warning, from the people who were there before, the ones on the tape. They knew what it was, and they tried to tell me. But I didn't listen. I tried to throw the magnets away. I did. I put them in the trash. But the next morning, they were back, right on the fridge, spelling out the same words. "We warned you," I screamed. I screamed so loud my throat hurt, but no one heard me. Or if they did, they didn't care. I tried to tell my friends, but how do you tell someone your fridge magnets are talking to you? They'd think I was crazy. They'd tell me to get some sleep, or see a doctor, so I kept it to myself. The secret grew heavier. It pressed down on me, like the ice in that station. I started sleeping with a light on, but it didn't help. The darkness felt like it was inside me now. Last night was the worst. I was in my kitchen, getting a glass of water, the quiet hum of the fridge, the soft glow of the night light. I opened a drawer, the one where I keep my extra spoons and forks. It's a junk drawer, really. And there it was, a reel of tape, just like the one from the station. Small, dark, my old tape recorder, the one I use for notes. It was never set up. It was still in its box in the closet. I don't know how the tape got there. I don't know how it got into my kitchen drawer. It was impossible. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. My heart was pounding, a wild thing in my chest. But I had to know. I had to. I pulled out my old recorder, plugged it in. The power cord felt cold, and put the tape on. My fingers trembled as I pressed play. The machine whirred, a familiar sound. Then the static cleared, and I heard it. My own voice. But it wasn't my normal voice. It was raw, desperate, filled with a terror I had never known, a fear so deep it twisted my stomach, and it was begging to be let out. Please, let me out, I can't. Let me out. The words were choked, broken by sobs. My own sobs. I could hear the fear, the pain, the pure agony, the sound of my own voice. Trapped, begging, was the most terrifying thing of all, because I knew what it meant, that thing, whatever it was. It didn't just stay in that station. It followed me. It's inside me. It rode with me on the plane. It lives in my apartment, and it wants to be free. It wants to get out, and I'm the way. I'm the door. I don't know how much time I have left. I feel it, moving inside me, a cold, dark thing. It's getting stronger. I can feel it pushing, trying to break free, like a prisoner. Soon I won't be Patrick anymore. I'll just be a vessel, a way for it to get out, a body, a shell, and then it will be truly free. To roam, to whisper, to find another host, and I'll be gone. Just a memory, a whisper in the cold, just like the voice on the tape. I feel it now, as I write this, a chill, deep inside. It's not just the room, it's me. My fingers are numb. My breath is coming out in little clouds. Even though I'm inside, the lights are flickering, they're dimming. I can hear the whispers closer now. They're not just at the edge of my hearing, they're right here, all around me. Let me back, they say. But it's not the voice from the station anymore. It's my voice, my own voice, whispering, begging, from inside me. I can feel it trying to take over. My thoughts are getting fuzzy. My hands are shaking. It wants to tell its story, through me, to warn someone else, or to lure them. I don't know, but I know one thing. It's almost here, the end. For me, I can feel its cold breath on my neck. It's so close, so very close. The room is getting darker. The lights are almost out. Just a faint yellow glow. And then, nothing. Just the cold, and the whispers, and the darkness.